Chapter 2156. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage did not reply, nor did he want to. Once he did, the Holy War would begin. This was something he did not want to see. The Holy Lord frowned and asked, "Brother Heavenly Grandmaster, we have been friends for so many years. Are you not willing to help me at the last moment?" The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage raised his head and looked at the Holy Master. After thinking for a while, he said, "Whether there is a celestial or not, it is impossible to predict. You know better than me what level a celestial is and what kind of existence it is. You and I cannot predict it. However, a celestial technique like the Saint Destroying Finger is scarier than the Green Lotus Sword Song. Hence, we all know that there is someone behind him who is stronger than the Green Lotus Sword Celestial." The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was expressionless, but he knew that there was no terrifying existence behind Yi Qinghan. Of course, he was not 100% sure. Yes, we are not his match, but with the Ghost Deity Grand Sage, it should be easy for 3 Grand Sages to suppress him. No matter how strong he is, I am sure that he is not a real immortal. As long as we understand the Holy Finger, we will have a chance to become immortal. Heavenly Grandmaster, if you help me become immortal, I will not forget you and will help you become immortal," the Holy Lord said directly. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage shook his head and replied honestly, "Sorry, I will not help you. On the contrary, I will stop you from starting the Holy War." "Can you stop me?" "Heavenly Grandmaster, I advise you not to ask for trouble. It is not difficult for me to suppress the Holy Emperor. I just need the Ghost Deity Grand Sage to delay you for a few days. After suppressing the Holy Emperor, it will be easy for me and him to suppress you," the Holy Lord warned coldly. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage smiled faintly and replied, "Yes, as the Holy Lord, you have not only suppressed one great sage. Back then, the Green Lotus Sword Fairy was suppressed by you and 10 other sages. Although one sage died, you still succeeded. But don't forget, today's 18 sages of the crazed sect will not lose to the 9 Mansion Chiefs. As long as I delay you for a few days, do you think the Holy Emperor and the 18 sages can suppress the Ghost Deity Grand Sage within 5 days? The Holy Lord's face darkened. He clenched his fists but did not act out. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage reminded him once more. "Don't forget about Yi Qinghan. After he becomes a saint, what do you think Xia Jiulong's chances of winning are?" With Xia Jiulong suppressed, Di Sheng Yi Qinghan and a few other arrogant sect members would be able to suppress the great sage of Spectre Deity in 3 days. When the time comes, it won't be too difficult for us to join forces and suppress a Holy Master. The Holy Master laughed coldly. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage understood the Holy Master the best. At this moment he was also uneasy. He was afraid that the Holy Master would start a holy war. However, the Sacred Master wasn't that aggressive. Instead, he looked at Yi Qinghan, who was being pushed by Xia Jiulong and Charity Saint. "This old man will make a bet with you. If Xia Jiulong loses, I will leave. If he wins, you will help me. How about it?" Sacred Master proposed. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage smiled and did not reply to his suggestion. Instead, he said, "We'll see." Whoosh! Wood out the cold wind howled. Snow covered everything. Squinting, Charity Saint pushed Yi Qinghan into the center of the battlefield. More than 30 sages were scattered around. Jiang Jingtian and the other arrogant sect members were still far away. They wouldn't appear unless it was a critical moment. "We're here." Charity Saint leaned on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and whispered. Yi Qinghan did not reply. Not a single snowflake fluttered around him. However, he used his soul to see the entire snowfield. Even the arrogant sect members behind him noticed that all the sages in the world, except for the one suppressed in hell, the peach tree and Bailey Chen Xiang, who were hiding in other arcane realms, were all here. Not a single one was absent. Including the sages of the arrogant sect, there were more than 50 people. The entire great realm was here. Xia Jiulong stood up from the ground. His aura was majestic. He controlled the snow in all directions. From his aura, it was clear that he was determined to win this battle. Yi Qinghan's emotions didn't show on his face because he couldn't move any part of his body. Moreover, his emotions didn't fluctuate. He just looked at the world silently, without any desires. Xia Jiolong looked at Yi Qinghan as if he was looking at a piece of trash. He smiled and mocked, "Yi Qinghan, I know you. You're a supreme being like me. You'd rather die than live like this. Today I'll free you. You don't have to thank me. It's your honor to die in my hands. Lin Jiuxing is dead. I stripped his soul origin and used it all for my own use. Now you're fighting against me and Lin Jiuxing. Even if you die in battle, you should be recorded in the annals of history." Yi Qinghan's mind moved. Snow fell from the sky and covered the sage's eyes. Then, the snow condensed into a large character that stood proudly in the world. "I'm not a saint. Lin Jiuxing is nothing in my eyes. As for you, I'll let all the sages in the world see you get trampled under my feet." "Ha!" Xia Jiolong laughed and waved his hand to shatter the large character. He stepped on the ice mountain and walked to the center of the battlefield. He gestured with his hand and said, "Yi Qinghan, you're already a cripple. I shouldn't have taken you as an opponent, but the younger generation is too useless. Apart from you, no one else is worthy of my attention. How lonely!" Whoosh! The character rose again. "Yes, it's too cold up there. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Woo woo woo." A cold wind blew and snow condensed into a crystalline snowman that looked almost identical to Yi Qinghan. He wore a snowy robe and emanated an oppressive celestial aura. The pressure he exuded made the saints back down. Everything was in Yi Qinghan's control. This snowman seemed to be stronger than the sages, even if that snowman would shatter at the slightest touch. The snowman waved its hand and formed a seal. Heaven and earth roared. The vast snowfield became Yi Qinghan's weapon. Every snowflake became a killing weapon that could steal the sages' souls. This was not the finger of annihilation, but the sky-shattering, star-plucking hand. The snowman did not make any unnecessary movements. It directly formed a seal and waved its hand to shatter the void. Then, it formed a second move. Star-plucking hand. The snowman activated the power of the heavenly Tao. It waved its hand to pluck the stars and steal the sages' souls. Its large hand directly grabbed at Xia Jiolong. Boom! Xia Jiolong waved his hand and activated the 9-dragon fan. 9 snow dragons roared and shook the mountains and rivers. They wanted to devour the snowman and destroy Yi Qinghan's body and kill his soul. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the snowman's hand crushed one of the snow dragons. It was as if Xia Jiolong's attack was weak. The snowman turned its wrist and moved the snow to form several large hands that covered the sky. It suppressed the remaining snow dragons. It looked so ordinary, but it killed without leaving a trace. The snowman's hand shattered the void and appeared in front of Xia Jiolong in the blink of an eye. Xia Jiolong was shocked. He took several steps back and slashed his 9-dragon fan at the snowman. However, the snowman seemed to have a life of its own. It was more like Yi Qinghan's body. It turned its hand into a claw and flipped its arm. It dodged the 9-dragon fan and grabbed at Xia Jiolong's wrist. Boom! Xia Jiolong stomped his foot and flew into the sky. He dodged the snowman's attack and slashed at the snowman's back. The third move, overturning the heavens and destroying the half-saint. Boom boom boom. Whooshed at the snowman's palm overturned the sky and shattered the snowfield. Airwaves spread in all directions. The snowflakes turned into divine weapons and attacked Xia Jiolong from all directions. The large hand was like the heavenly Tao's attack. No matter how Xia Jiolong tried to escape, he could not escape from the 5-finger mountain. At this moment, all the sages' hair stood on end. This simple attack contained the heavenly Tao. It was impossible to resist. It was like a punishment from the heavens. It could suppress a sage with a wave of its hand. This was only the third move. The fourth and fifth moves had not even begun, but they were already so powerful. Even the Cloud Dragon Sage was furious. If they were in Xia Jiolong's place, none of them would dare to say that they could block Yi Qinghan. Chapter 2157. The second celestial technique appeared. The sacred leader was even more confused. She had some doubts before, but now she didn't even dare to doubt it. Who in the world could create 2 celestial techniques? Other than immortals? The sacred leader took a deep breath. Her fingertips trembled. She didn't dare to rashly start a supreme sage battle. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's snowman overturning the sky palm tore through the sky. A giant hand blotted out the sky as it pressed down from above, shattering all the ice on the snowy plains. The snowy plains sank down over 1,000 meters. Xia Jiolong tried to evade and roared, but he couldn't escape at all. The technique imprisoned all directions. Xia Jiolong was like a trapped beast, unable to escape the attack range. A trapped beast would still fight. It was a perfect description of Xia Jiolong at this moment. Xia Jiolong roared. Veins popped out all over his body. The sacred dragon robe was already at its peak power. The 9 dragons' fan split into 9 sacred dragons and soared into the sky with him, trying to shatter the huge hand. Boom! The peak attacks of the 2 powerhouses collided. The impact exceeded the limit. They were both supreme sages of the same level. At this moment, they were competing with supernatural powers. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan used celestial techniques. The snowman's palm shattered the 9 dragons. Xia Jiolong was suppressed into the abyss. The snowfield collapsed, and snowflakes broke through the mountains and rivers. Bang bang bang. Crack crack crack. Xia Jiolong's body broke through mountains and rivers. He was smashed into the deep pit and broke through several layers of the snowfield. The 9 dragons' fan fell beside him, staining the sacred dragon robe with blood. The snowman was also shattered by this blow. It scattered between heaven and earth. Within 10,000 miles, the sages were enraged. As Yi Qinghan said, there was no sage in the world. If he was a sage, could the other eternal sages still be called sages? Yi Qinghan's original body was still lying in the wheelchair. He didn't move at all. His powerful soul resisted the aftershock. At this moment he was dizzy, but he quickly calmed down. Charity Saint stabilized the wheelchair. Her jade hands were covered in cold sweat. She was also afraid that Yi Qinghan's will and soul would be exhausted. And Xia Jiolong still had the immortal seal imprint. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dong dong dong. The saints were unable to calm down. Their breathing quickened and their hearts prayed for blessings. They felt as if their hearts were about to explode. Their faces were pale as they gazed at Xia Jiolong and Yi Qinghan in the distance. This battle was not over yet. It could only be said that it had just begun. Qinghan, are you all right? Charity Saint asked gently. However, Yi Qinghan did not respond. Every extra bit of strength was a good thing. The one who could last until the end would be the final victor. This was especially so for Yi Qinghan. Right now, he was relying on his soul, will, and spiritual power. Every bit of his soul was a loss. Yi Qinghan didn't respond to her, but that didn't mean that he had lost consciousness. Instead, he was gathering even more power to use the 4th or 5th move to directly destroy Xia Jiolong. The 4th move, condensing qi into Saint's seal. A vast and majestic aura swept over from the edge of heaven and earth. The snowman condensed again, and with a wave of his hand, he mobilized the power of the mountains and rivers. He condensed the qi into a saint seal, and a saint seal bloomed with saint light. The nebula in the sky was no longer there, and thousands of stars flashed. The snowman waved his hand and plucked the stars, condensing them into a saint seal. A star transformed into a square saint seal, and under the saint seal, mysterious runes constantly condensed. Every mark was engraved with the mysteries of the Tao, runes that could destroy and suppress a saint. In the center of the runes under the saint seal, a huge word appeared, astounding saint. Mortal. This strike was enough to kill a saint, and a powerful one at that. Even a saint like Xia Jiolong would be killed by the saint seal. Xia Jiolong, who was lying in a pool of blood, had his facial muscles contorted from the impact of the saint seal. However, there was no time for him to hesitate. An angry roar came from the abyss, as if a peerless beast had emerged from the abyss. A surge of energy shattered the galaxy, and it reached the clouds. An immortal sealing mark appeared on Xia Jiolong's forehead, transforming into an immortal seal. The immortal light tore through the mountains and rivers, shattering the abyss. The abyss continued to expand, and the snow turned into water. Boom! Xia Jiulong stepped into the abyss, and with the immortal sealing mark, he soared into the sky and appeared above the water. His aura was monstrous, and his killing intent was so dense that it was tangible. Just his killing intent alone could destroy countless upper plane cultivators. Yi Qinghan, you are very strong. However, you rely on your immortal techniques, while I rely on my immortal sealing mark. Killing you is not considered bullying you. Xia Jiulong gritted his teeth and stared at Yi Qinghan in the distance. He actually wanted to attack Yi Qinghan's main body. Swoosh, swoosh. The snowman's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Yi Qinghan's main body. He formed a seal with both hands, and the saint's seal condensed from the stars in the sky was pulled into his palms. He crossed his hands, and the saint's seal was filled with the mysteries of killing saints. Every blade mark was bestowed by an immortal technique. Killing a saint was not a problem. If Yi Qinghan's soul was strong enough, killing a great saint would not be a problem. Xia Jiulong, I will send you to the Western Paradise today. A few large words appeared in the sky, and they were soul-stirring. The snowman controlled the saint's seal, and with a push of his hands, the snowman collapsed. However, the saint's seal expanded infinitely, and the immortal character in the center of the saint's seal broke free from its restraints and attacked Xia Jiulong. Boom, boom. In an instant, the snowy plains were torn apart. Countless snowy mountains collapsed, destroying heaven and earth. Just the word immortal could kill a saint, and the sage seal behind it suppressed Xia Jiulong with boundless immortal power. Xia Jiulong's black hair flew backward like steel needles piercing through space and time. Even his holy dragon robe dimmed. Xia Jiulong formed a seal with both hands, and the immortal sealing mark expanded infinitely. Immortal force surged, and it attacked the saint's seal and the immortal character. The immortal seal should have a slight advantage over the saint's seal, but Yi Qinghan had comprehended the fourth style of the heaven-breaking star-plucking hand, and he was very familiar with it. Unfortunately, Xia Jiulong had not comprehended the immortal sealing mark, and he did not even understand the true mysteries of the immortal sealing mark. At most, they were evenly matched. Boom! The two marks shattered, and the void was shattered. The deafening sound almost shattered the Tao heart of the saints. This was not a battle between saints, but almost comparable to a great saint. Holy light and immortal force spread for thousands of miles. Everyone retreated, and only Yi Qinghan, Charity Saint, and Xia Jiulong remained in the center of the battlefield. Charity Saint's seductive face was pale, and she was sweating profusely. However, she refused to let go of the wheelchair, and refused to let go of Yi Qinghan. She kept retreating, and two footprints appeared on the ice beneath her feet. Xia Jiulong took one step at a time, leaving behind a footprint. Countless years of ice were crushed. Traces of blood appeared on his forehead, and blood gushed out from the corner of his mouth. The immortal imprint unleashed even more immortal might, and the sound of the condensed star crumbled. However, the immortal character was still as powerful as a rainbow. It crushed the immortal imprint and directly sent it back into Xia Jiulong's forehead. Bang! Xia Jiulong was sent flying, and he fell heavily in front of the 9 lords, almost fainting. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's wheelchair was shattered. His body fell on the ice, and he was no longer breathing. This made everyone extremely nervous. No one knew if Yi Qinghan still had the strength to fight. The current Yi Qinghan could no longer be understood by ordinary people. Charity Saint was so nervous that her clothes were drenched in sweat. She grabbed Yi Qinghan's large hand and hurriedly said, "Qinghan, hang in there. You're about to win." At this moment, Yi Qinghan's soul felt like it was being cut by a knife. He was muddle-headed, and he couldn't even distinguish the scene 100 meters away. He could only hear Charity Saint's shouts in a daze, and his spiritual sense became clearer and clearer. Chapter 2158. Yi Qinghan's soul felt like it was being cut by a knife. He was muddle-headed, but Charity Saint's constant calls finally woke him up a little. However, his soul was too exhausted, and the world around him was a blur. However, Xia Jiulong wasn't having it easy either. He had already fainted, and a bloody mark appeared on his forehead. He kept coughing up blood. The sacred dragon robe dimmed, and the 9-dragon fan was almost broken. His limbs were twisted, and he lay on the frozen ground, barely breathing. Jiulong, Cloud Dragon Saint and the other 9 lords all gathered around him, pouring their saint power into him to heal his wounds. This was a shameless act, but no one accused her of it. This was because the Universal Love Saint was pressing her forehead against Yi Qinghan's, using her own soul to nourish Yi Qinghan's soul. She had given him 4/5 of her soul energy. Charity Saint's face was as white as snow. She knelt in front of Yi Qinghan's forehead, so tired that she couldn't even stand properly. Yi Qinghan's soul was blessed by Charity Saint, and he woke up after a while. His soul had recovered about 80%. The ice and snow changed order, forming a frosty wheelchair. The snowman reappeared, automatically lifting Yi Qinghan and Charity Saint into the wheelchair. Boom! The snowman collapsed, and the wheelchair slowly slid forward. Yi Qinghan's hair was all white, and his entire body seemed to be frozen. However, his soul was becoming more and more awake. His divine sense covered the snowy plains, and he looked at the 9 lords and Xia Jiulong. His killing intent had condensed into a solid form, causing the surrounding cold wind to chill to the bone. A person in a vegetative state whose soul was in a muddle-headed state. Even saints were frightened and didn't dare to get too close. A wave of killing intent swept through heaven and earth. Even the great saints became serious, and their auras leaked out. All the saints in the world retreated far away, and the 9 lords were the first to leave. Xia Jiulong stood up like a wild beast, and his eyes shone with divine light. The immortal sealing mark was even more soul-stirring. His eyes flashed red, and his killing intent soared to the sky. The 9 lords had stored their power in Xia Jiulong's body, allowing him to use his strongest battle power. This attack was probably not much weaker than the Spectre Patriarch's. Once it clashed with Yi Qinghan, the shockwaves could probably injure an ordinary eternal saint. Yi Qinghan controlled the wind and snow with his mind, forming 2 soul-stealing characters. Leave. It was a simple word, but it contained an incomparably firm will. It also indicated that even an eternal saint would not be able to withstand the aftermath of the next attack. The Saint of Universal Love was unwilling to leave and said in a low voice, "I've said it before. If you win, I'll follow. If you lose, I'll still follow." If he won, he would live. If he lost, he would die without a doubt. There was no third option for Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan did not allow her to refuse. With a thought, the wind and snow surged and directly swept the Holy of Charity away. In the blink of an eye, they appeared 1,000 miles away. The Absolute Saint waved his hand and took away the Universal Love Saint, not allowing her to act recklessly. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Xia Jiulong's auras were increasing. Their energies clashed and their halos rushed into the clouds, forming 2 auroras. They were gorgeous and beautiful, but the saints didn't dare to touch them. Yi Qinghan, your luck really makes me jealous. Even a cripple can make an immortal take notice of you and pass on 2 immortal techniques to you. Crack, crack, crack. Xia Jiulong clenched his iron fists and stared at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. Whoosh! On the Frost War Chariot, Yi Qinghan's body leaned against the crystal-clear wheelchair. Even his hair had turned silver, and his soul was extremely dignified. At this moment, it could be seen that there were 9 powers hidden in Xia Jiulong's body. It was the power of the 9 lords. If he couldn't kill him in one blow, there was no need to continue this battle. That was because his soul power was limited. The power that the Holy of Universal Love had just given him was only enough for one last blow. Yi Qinghan did not respond to Xia Jiulong. Instead, he gathered all of his soul power and activated the 5th move of the sky-piercing star-plucking hand. The 5th move, condense stars into a sword, sees a saint's soul from 10,000 miles. It could kill a saint within 10,000 miles. Without a doubt, this move could kill a saint. It was not impossible to kill a saint. A hand of nothingness seized the air, and the huge hand that covered the sky crushed a star. The star was compressed and turned into a thin divine sword that hung in the air. A divine sword formed by a star was as heavy as a star and even more powerful than the thunder god's hammer. As soon as the divine sword was formed, lightning attached to it and celestial spells shrouded it. It was constantly engraved with runes that contained the power to kill saints. A snowy human figure danced in front of Yi Qinghan. His hands crossed, and the divine sword tore through space and time, appearing in front of the snowy figure. Boom! The snowy figure seemed to materialize. He held the divine sword with both hands and stood in front of his forehead. He and the sword became one, causing the heavens to roar. All the techniques gathered on the divine sword, and the power of heaven and earth was attached to the sword. This was an immortal technique. It was much more advanced than a great saint technique. Everyone was mesmerized. A great saint could pluck a star with a wave of his hand, but to condense it into a sword in an instant, a great saint could not do it. Neither the Divine Lord nor the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage could do it. Boom! Crack, crack, crack. Whoosh! The snowy figure moved, trampling mountains and rivers. The divine sword tore through the void like a shooting star. The moment Xia Jiolong's imprint appeared, it was pushed back into his consciousness by a terrifying aura. At this moment, even his saint power was in chaos. He was so frightened that he used all his saint power to escape. In the blink of an eye, he was thousands of miles away. Unfortunately, his speed was not as fast as the divine sword. Whoosh! The divine sword pierced through the void and appeared behind Xia Jiolong. He had no choice but to turn around and use the imprint to smash the divine sword. Boom! Splat! The divine sword pierced through the celestial sealing imprint like a hot knife through butter. It repelled the celestial sealing imprint and cut it into his body. Then, the divine sword pierced through his chest, piercing through his holy dragon robe. After a blood-curdling scream, the saint-killing runes on the divine sword shattered Xia Jiolong's vitality and destroyed his soul. The divine sword carried his body through thousands of miles and crashed into the highest peak of the snowy plains in the extreme north, nailing Xia Jiolong to death on the snowy peak. Xia Jiolong's body hung on the snowy mountain. The holy dragon robe was torn, and the soul of the holy dragon in the robe was killed. Just like that, Xia Jiolong was dead. All was silent and the saints were silent. Everyone looked at the supreme being, who had been the most powerful being in the world since birth. Now, he had died just like that. However, dying because of an immortal's art was not a waste of his life's glory. Xia Jiolong's hands hung down and he was completely limp. Then, his body was frozen by the extreme cold and his body was covered with icicles. At the moment of Xia Jiolong's death, Yi Qinghan's frost chariot retreated thousands of miles in the blink of an eye, leaving a deep mark in the ice plains. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The saints of the insane sect quickly rushed forward and stood in front of Yi Qinghan. They were afraid that his body would be destroyed by the enemy. The Divine Lord was silent. He looked at Xia Jiolong and then at Yi Qinghan. He did not dare to make a move. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was obviously on Yi Qinghan's side. After all, they were master and disciple. The aura of a holy emperor erupted. The ice elements condensed into a frost sword, waiting for the Divine Lord to make a move. Yi Qinghan had unleashed this attack. Although his will and spiritual energy were exhausted, he was still conscious. He looked at the Divine Lord. A line of golden words appeared under his feet, causing the Divine Lord to tremble. The immortal path has emotions, and so does the heavens. How can a heartless person become an immortal? Chapter 2159. Yi Qinghan did not have the strength to unleash the sixth style. Naturally, he could not fight against a great sage. He could not even defeat the ghostly patriarch, let alone the Divine Lord. He could only use psychological warfare to intimidate the Divine Lord. The Divine Lord did not dare to attack. He had the highest chance of becoming an immortal. There was no need to risk offending an immortal, even though he could not be sure if Yi Qinghan had an immortal backing him. At this moment, two great sages appeared and stood not far from Yi Qinghan. Even if the Divine Lord dared to attack, he would not have the chance. In the end, the Divine Lord left with the 9 Mansion Lords. The sacred war started because of Xia Jiolong and ended because of him. The flames of the sacred war were extinguished. Watching the Saint Lord leave, the exhausted Yi Qinghan retracted his soul and fell into a deep sleep once again. This time, he had used up all of his soul power. His dried-up soul power and consciousness were regenerated and quickly poured out. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage watched as the Kuang sect escorted Yi Qinghan away. He did not chase after them. His prediction ability was the strongest. He did not predict that Yi Qinghan had someone backing him. Hence, he knew that he could only rely on Yi Qinghan to hold on and intimidate the Divine Lord. Otherwise, the sacred war would break out. The first to step on the path to immortality should be Fan Yin. Little guy, you might be disappointed. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage watched Yi Qinghan's back as he left and said quietly. Fan Yin was only in the full circle of the upper level. However, the heavenly Grandmaster sect had an elixir that made it easy for him to become a saint. However, he was still far from becoming a great sage. No one knew why the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was so sure that Fan Yin would be the first to ascend to immortality. Yi Qinghan did not know, and neither did the others. Emperor, Almighty Saint, and the others escorted Yi Qinghan back to Nine States Madness Manor. Yi Qinghan killed Xia Jiulong in this battle and became famous everywhere. The insane school, which was still expanding, attracted the attention of all the heroes in the world. They all rushed to Nine States Madness Manor in hopes of becoming an immortal. However, after Yi Qinghan returned to the Nine States Wild Mansion, he had not appeared again. For 1,000 years, he had been in seclusion, cultivating his will and spiritual energy. His soul had become stronger and stronger, and he had already comprehended the saint killing finger to the great completion stage. Unfortunately, without the support of a physical body, it was extremely difficult to reach the great completion stage. Even if he could comprehend the saint killing finger, he would not be able to use it. Due to the limitations of his physical body, Yi Qinghan stopped at the pinnacle of the saint realm. He was much weaker than other saints and could die easily. Yi Qinghan, who had been silent for 1,000 years, appeared again. The insane school had not produced a single saint in the past 1,000 years, and it was still the same 18. Including Yi Qinghan and Yar Saint, they had the largest number of saints. However, they were still not as strong as the four forces with supreme saints. After 1,000 years of development, the insane school had reached its peak. Its army had exceeded 3 million, its outer sect had more than 100,000 people, and its inner sect had less than 50 people. However, due to the lack of population in the territory, the development was very slow. The first thing Yi Qinghan did when he came out of seclusion was to gather the 18 saints to discuss how to move the entrance of the Nine States domain to the entrance of Nine States Madness Manor. Although Nine States Madness Manor was a small domain, the people inside could be trusted. If a genius was born, he could be accepted into the outer sect. Moving the location of a small domain was very difficult, but destroying it was very simple. The 18 saints were also helpless. If they gave up the small domain of the 9 states, the people of the 9 states might not be willing. After all, it was their ancestral land. There were many places that could not be given up, especially the ancestral land of Chaos Continent. That was the birthplace of the insane school. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. When Yi Qinghan came out of seclusion, the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage returned all the ultimate divine gold that Yi Qinghan had given him. He also gave him some of the celestial materials that he had accumulated over the years. They were enough to make 3 sets of eternal divine instruments. Yi Qinghan could not make eternal divine instruments with just his soul. In the end, he asked the Holy Emperor, who had been staying outside the 9 States Madness Manor. The Holy Emperor had not left the 9 States Madness Manor except for one trip back. He did not dare to go back, because if he did, the Holy Master would join forces with the ghostly Grandmaster to suppress him. Even if Yi Qinghan and the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage wanted to help, they would not have the chance. For so many years, he was willing to be a guard of the insane school. He found a small place at the entrance and cultivated there. The Holy Emperor was embarrassed to stay in the insane school. Now that the insane school could use it, he was very happy. He was willing to make Yi Qinghan an eternal divine instrument. He even added some celestial materials. The Holy Emperor of Universal Love pushed Yi Qinghan's frost chariot and stood in front of the Holy Emperor. Yi Qinghan used his mind to control the holy power between heaven and earth. He condensed it into a human form and communicated with words. No need for sets. There are too many saints in the insane school and too few celestial materials. Let's make a suitable holy weapon for everyone. Then, Yi Qinghan used his holy power to condense the holy weapons. He understood the habits of the insane school and designed the shapes of the holy weapons for them. A long spear, 6 unique swords of different shapes, and a long staff. All the celestial materials were only enough to make 8 holy weapons. Yi Qinghan could only choose to make the strongest holy weapons first. The Holy Emperor of Universal Love looked at the holy weapons condensed by Yi Qinghan and nodded in agreement. Just then, the Holy Emperor of Universal Love bowed and said, "Grandfather, I have to take sect leader Yi away for a while. It may be a long time." "Where are you going?" The Holy Emperor of Universal Love frowned. The world was silent now, but the holy war was about to break out. It was too dangerous outside. "I can't tell you for now. This is sect leader Ye's special arrangement. This time, he said that he must go to that place. Maybe there's a chance to change the situation, save the body, and erase the deathless qi in the soul," the Holy Emperor of Universal Love replied respectfully. Knowing that it was Yi Qinghan's decision, the Holy Emperor of Universal Love did not dare to stop him. He could only say in a muffled voice, "Be careful." Now that the world situation was settled, the crazy sect and the Holy Empire were both settling down and gathering strength. The Holy Emperor of Universal Love was comprehending the sacred finger of annihilation and the star-picking hand. As long as he succeeded, it would be the time of death for the sky-reaching sect, the Holy Emperor of Universal Love, and Yi Qinghan. Whether or not there was an immortal, he would not be afraid. Now that the great world was in chaos, the powerful sects and clans were killing each other. They all wanted to take a step forward and prepare for the holy war in the future. The end of the holy war was the world of the strong. The weak could only wait to be slaughtered. No one wanted to sit and wait for death. Forces like the blessed Buddha temple that bemoaned the heavens and pitted the fate of mankind had all retreated. They no longer helped the people of the world. The sky-reaching sect, on the other hand, wantonly sent experts to the major forces to persuade them, hoping to stop this catastrophe. Unfortunately, it was useless. They could only teach ordinary creatures to save themselves and provide them with a temporary place to live. The other holy lands stood aside and watched. The whole world was in chaos. The various small domains were invaded by the great world. The other secret realms no longer opened once every 10,000 years. Instead, the strong were respected. They plundered resources everywhere to prepare for the Great War. The Holy Emperor of Universal Love pushed Yi Qinghan into the Great World. He saw that there were battles everywhere. Even the Holy Lands were involved. Although the saints did not participate, the power was still terrifying. There were corpses everywhere. Some were even lying on the streets. Their corpses were exposed in the wilderness. There was no one to bury them. Chapter 2160. Yi Qinghan watched the great world descend into chaos, but his emotions did not fluctuate. This was all caused by human greed and panic. Even the great sages were powerless to resolve this chaos. They could only rely on themselves. The Saint of Universal Love pushed Yi Qinghan forward rapidly. In just a few months, they had crossed a holy land and entered the territory of the sky-reaching church, rushing toward the northeast. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage naturally knew that Yi Qinghan and the Universal Love Saint had entered the territory of the Heavenly Grandmaster Church. However, he did not welcome them because he knew that Yi Qinghan was not here for him. Within the Heavenly Grandmaster realm, Fan Yin was in secluded meditation. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage had sped up her cultivation, and she was now in the middle stage of the upper level. Soon, she would reach the peak of the upper level and become a half-saint. On this day, the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage awakened Fan Yin. Fan Yin still did not know that Yi Qinghan was in a vegetative state. He wanted to go out and find him, but he was stopped by the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. "Fan, I have something to tell you," said the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage in a deep voice. This was the first time Fan Yin saw the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage so serious. She asked curiously, "What's wrong, old man? You have been in closed-door cultivation for 300 years. Many things have happened during this period. Today, I will tell you about them," said the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage softly. Fan Yin could tell that something was amiss. If there was nothing serious, the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage would not have such an expression. He would not be so serious with Fan Yin. Fan Yin sat at the side and watched the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. After Yi Qinghan disappeared, he appeared again. However, he has become a living dead. His physical body is dead, and his soul is tainted with the deathless aura. However, his soul has become a saint, and he has cultivated a second immortal technique, the heaven-breaking star-plucking hand. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage looked at Fan Yin and said slowly, "Xia Jiulong has devoured the soul of the nine-star saint and stripped him of his origin. He has also become a saint, and has become a supreme being. He has just become a saint, and has the immortal sealing mark. His strength is comparable to that of a half-step great saint. Unfortunately, he still couldn't resist Yi Qinghan, and was completely obliterated. His soul and physical body were destroyed, and the immortal sealing mark left his body." Fan Yin was dumbfounded, unable to accept such a fact. A supreme being of a generation, from birth until just a while ago, Xia Jiulong had always maintained the glory of being the number one under the heavens. To think that he would be killed by a young man after becoming a saint. As for Yi Qinghan, he had actually become a living dead. Fan Yin was even more unable to accept this. That handsome face always had an unruly smile, always radiating an evil aura, yet incomparably bright. Who would have thought that he would become a living dead today? His physical body was already dead, and his soul was still tainted with the deathless aura. Once his physical body was destroyed, he would definitely die. Where is little Yi Zi now? Fan Yin stood up and wanted to take a look. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage shook his head and said, "Your mission now is not to find Yi Qinghan, but to find the immortal sealing mark. As for Yi Qinghan, he has no chance. No matter how strong his soul is, once his physical body is dead, he will never have the chance to enter the great sage realm. Even if he has immortal spells, he will never be able to enter the path of immortal ascension." What? Fan Yin's eyes widened. He could not understand the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's words. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage was silent. He did not know how to explain it to Fan Yin. He could only say, "You will understand in the future. Once you obtain the immortal sealing mark, you will understand. Sometimes, it's not that you don't want to do something, but that you are forced to do it by an invisible hand." Fan Yin looked at the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage in confusion and asked, "Where is the immortal sealing mark?" The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage smiled mysteriously and pointed to the sky. He said, "Only the heavens know. Go, the one with great destiny. Right now, only you and the Holy Master have the chance to become immortal. If you don't become immortal, it will be him. As for Yi Qinghan, I can't see through him, but based on reality, he has no chance. My powers are not even that of a saint." Fan Yin could not understand. Because of fate. Many times, fate plays tricks on people. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with helplessness. He also wanted to become immortal, but the path of immortal ascension was chaotic. He would be lost on the path, and from then on, he would be lost. He could predict the future, so he did not dare to take the risk. Just as the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage and Fan Yin were conversing, Yi Qinghan and the Saint of Universal Love traversed the sky above the Heavenly Grandmaster sect. Half a day after they left, Fan Yin walked out of the Heavenly Grandmaster realm and brushed past Yi Qinghan. The Saint of Universal Love pushed Yi Qinghan straight towards the East Sea, towards the coiling Dragon Island. The Nine Lords naturally found Yi Qinghan's tracks, but now that the Holy Master was in seclusion, who would dare to assassinate Yi Qinghan without the Holy Master? The fifth move of the star-plucking hand could kill a saint from thousands of miles away. Before they could even get close to Yi Qinghan, the Cloud Dragon Sage and the others would be killed. Saints were all afraid of death, so the 9 lords only dared to watch Yi Qinghan head towards the Coiling Dragon Island, and did not dare to stop him. Just like that, the Saint of Universal Love pushed Yi Qinghan without any obstructions, crossing mountains and seas, and spending a lot of time to reach the Coiling Dragon Island. The Saint of Universal Love smiled, welcoming the sea breeze and stepping on the sand. The frost chariot shone with golden light under the sunlight, filled with runes and mystical mysteries. Even the scorching sun could not melt the chariot. That person you spoke of, does he have a chance to save you? Can he really erase the deathless aura in your soul? The Saint of Universal Love asked gently. Whoosh! The seawater churned, forming a few large words. Let's try, I'm not sure either. Yi Qinghan's soul was extremely relaxed, and he quickly replied. The Saint of Universal Love, however, was filled with hope. She had heard of the immortal peach tree, but no one had been able to find it. Other than the great sage Bailey Longxian who had interacted with it, no one else had the chance to meet it. This great sage was full of mysteries and was all-knowing. I'll teach you an immortal technique. Although I can't speak, I can use words to replace it. My chances of becoming an immortal are too low. I hope you can help me fulfill my regrets. The seawater churned, and large words appeared in the air before dissipating, forming a human figure. His immortal robes shone brightly, and his body was lifelike. His face was almost identical to Yi Qinghan's, filled with tenderness. He waved his hand and gathered a sword, moving the mountains and seas, killing the sea until it was silent and all living things were floating. Whoosh! Whoosh! The waterman formed a seal, reaching the clouds. With a wave of his hand, he plucked the stars and condensed the sage seal. Immortal runes were engraved all over the sage seal, filling it with the power to kill a sage. Yi Qinghan's every step and every detail of the operation of the Saint Force was very detailed. However, everyone's opportunities were different. It was not that the Saint of Universal Love was not stupid, nor was she lacking in talent, but in the face of such an immortal technique, it was so difficult to understand that even with Yi Qinghan's guidance, she could not condense it into a seal. The Saint of Universal Love spent a few years on the first 3 moves, but only managed to comprehend the tip of the iceberg. She did not have such an immortal fate, and could only sigh. Yi Qinghan did not know fatigue. He taught the Saint of Universal Love while comprehending it himself. After all, he had not comprehended every move and style to perfection. Just like that, the two cultivated as they traveled. A year later, they appeared in the northeast of the Coiling Dragon Island. The entrance to the Coiling Dragon Mystic Realm was right in front of them. Chapter 2161. The Coiling Dragon Secret Realm was filled with desolation and pressure, making it hard for ordinary people to breathe. After so many years, this place was desolate and uninhabited. However, the area ahead was a mess, as though it had been trampled by a large group of experts. Yi Qinghan's divine sense covered 10,000 li and indeed found many experts plundering resources. Some were strong while some were weak, but most of them were from the 3,000 sects and the 100 great clans. These people were truly everywhere. Now that the restrictions of the sacred grounds were greatly reduced, the law couldn't punish the majority. Everyone was fighting for resources, and the saints were like clay bodhisattvas crossing the river. They couldn't even protect themselves. Charity Saint pushed Yi Qinghan forward. There were bloodstains and traces of battle everywhere. Corpses were strewn across the wilderness, and there wasn't even anyone to bury them. However, there were many weaklings who profited from the corpses, taking the fake saint robes of the upper and middle realm experts and their weapons. Charity Saint shook her head and sighed. She didn't stop them, nor could she stop them. After all, she couldn't control them forever. Since we've taken their clothes and taken their weapons, let's just bury them. It'll be considered a good karma. Charity Saint looked at a few Sector Lord-level rookies plucking the clothes off the corpses and couldn't help but speak. Although these people were weak, it didn't mean they were ignorant. Yi Qinghan's Frost wore chariot and appearance. Who didn't know of Charity Saint's appearance? Greetings, Saint Yi, "Greetings, Saint of Charity. We'll follow the saint's orders." The group respectfully knelt on the spot, not daring to raise their heads. Charity Saint didn't say much and casually said that even if they didn't bury the corpses, she wouldn't kill them. What? The Frost War chariot almost left the ground and sped forward without any bumps. In the blink of an eye, it appeared thousands of li away. The group of rookies cried out in excitement. They didn't expect to see a saint in this lifetime. Moreover, it was the strongest and most beautiful saint in the world. Yi Qinghan looked at this familiar world. His divine sense had already covered millions of li, constantly searching for Bailey Chen Xiang and that immortal peach tree. However, there was no trace of them, and he couldn't find them at all. A year later, the two of them appeared at the place where Bailey Chen Xiang had cultivated the high-grade sacred medicine. Unfortunately, things had changed, and she had already left. Yi Qinghan's soul dimmed. At this moment, he didn't even have the strength to clench his fists. Living like this was indeed very painful. Just as Xia Jiulong had said, living like this was worse than death. Such an invincible supreme king should have been the pride of the generation, able to cover the sky with a wave of his hand and destroy saints with a stomp of his foot. However, he was actually cooped up in a small chariot. How sad and laughable. Right now, the only thing that could save Yi Qinghan was the legendary peach tree. Not only did it possess great fortune and abilities, but it also possessed boundless vitality. If it couldn't save Yi Qinghan, then he could only rely on himself. The Frost War chariot rolled over the stone path and continued deeper in. They discovered quite a few mutated immortal peach trees, all of them quite old. Yi Qinghan subconsciously wanted to plunder them, but he was unable to move his finger. The tiny person formed within his soul couldn't help but laugh, a laugh filled with self-mockery. Charity Saint knew Yi Qinghan well. He waved his hand and took away the mutated immortal peach tree. How could a greedy person like you let go of a treasure? Although you can't use it, the people of the insane sect can. That's why I helped you take it. From now on, I'm your arm and leg, so don't be sad. Charity Saint whispered. Yi Qinghan smiled. Although his expression was still stiff, his soul was really happy. He didn't expect Charity Saint to know him so well. Whoosh! A gentle breeze blew past, causing his black hair to flutter. Wisps of cold air wrapped around his body. Even after 1,000,000 years, his golden body of utmost holiness would not rot. The two of them were like wandering monks, walking between heaven and earth. Everything was natural, beautiful, and in tune with the mountains and rivers. Day after day, year after year, they kept searching. Unfortunately, there was no trace of the immortal peach tree. Even the great saint couldn't find it, let alone Yi Qinghan and the universal love saint. Unless the immortal peach tree voluntarily came to see them, they wouldn't be able to find it even if they searched the entire coiling dragon arcane realm. Charity Saint was getting more and more nervous, afraid that they couldn't find the immortal peach tree, or that the tree wouldn't come out to see them. He channeled his holy power and said in a low voice, "Junior Charity Saint requests the immortal peach tree great sage to come out and see me. I'm willing to pay any price." Boom! The sound rolled like a mighty river, as if it could spread throughout the entire coiling dragon arcane realm. Suddenly, the entire coiling dragon arcane realm quieted down. After a long while, there was still no sound. Even the wind stopped. No one or thing responded to Charity Saint. Yi Qinghan was silent. At this moment, even Bailey Chen Xiang had disappeared, as if she was no longer in the arcane realm. It's hard to find immortals. Don't be sad. Yi Qinghan channeled his holy power and formed a few words to comfort Charity Saint. Charity Saint smiled bitterly. How could she not be anxious? If she could, she would rather her body be destroyed to wake Yi Qinghan up. One couldn't be in a hurry to find immortals. Everything depended on hard work and perseverance. Otherwise, wouldn't the world be filled with immortals and demons? Yi Qinghan had also settled down after so many years. His state of mind and soul were much stronger and more mature than his peers. As the saying goes, when the heavens bestow a great responsibility upon a great man, he must first endure hardships and work his muscles and bones. If one didn't want to endure hardships, how could one become an immortal? Can this coiling dragon arcane realm be connected to other small domains? Yi Qinghan once again formed a wild cursive word and asked Charity Saint. Charity Saint knew nothing about this place. She hadn't come out for many years and didn't care about worldly affairs. She was like a blind person to the coiling dragon arcane realm. Saints were powerless, so she could only shake her head. Take your time. I believe there must be more than one exit here. The immortal peach tree must have left a way out for itself. Yi Qinghan condensed a doppelganger and flew through the air. He actually possessed the ability to see through the heavens and the earth. His gaze swept across everything, and nothing could stop his gaze. The boundless great desolate Aeon looked like stars, but there was nothing special about it. Boom! Yi Qinghan crushed a star with a wave of his hand. With a flip of his palm, he broke through the void. A canopy appeared in the sky. The chaos dissipated, and the aura of desolation filled the air. Yi Qinghan couldn't be more familiar with the aura of desolation. In the past, he cultivated the power of desolation, so he quickly felt the difference. The aura of desolation here wasn't like the undeveloped chaos, but was forcefully condensed by someone. Immortal spells can hide my divine eyes, but not my heart. Yi Qinghan's soul shook. Light gathered in his doppelganger's eyes, and he formed a seal with his palms. He gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and commanded the Tao of the heavens. He waved his hand, and the immortal sword appeared in his hand. His hands crossed, and he became one with the sword. He forcefully pierced through the void in front of him. Boom! Whoosh! Immortal radiance filled the sky. It was dazzling and it stole one's soul. The immortal sword collapsed, and so did the immortal runes and Tao techniques. A void path appeared in front of him. He didn't know where it led, but he was sure that this was the escape route of the immortal peach tree. Yi Qinghan couldn't be sure if this was the only escape route for the immortal peach tree. He could only try to find the immortal trail. Charity Saint looked at this void path in shock. She couldn't understand how terrifying the immortal peach tree's creation was. It actually secretly built such a path to heaven here. Chapter 2162. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the immortal peach tree's divine abilities were omnipotent. If it could create such a path without anyone noticing, it could create a second one. A crafty rabbit had 3 burrows, let alone the immortal peach tree. Wah! The clone took the lead and stepped into the void path, scouting for the main body and Universal Love Saint. 1,000 meters away, Universal Love Saint carefully pushed the frost chariot and followed from afar. They didn't know where this path led to, but since it was created by the immortal peach tree, no one knew if it would be dangerous. Therefore, Universal Love Saint and Yi Qinghan were exceptionally careful. The void path was dotted with stars. It was like an illusion, but when one's divine sense got closer, they realized that everything was real. Such a path couldn't be taken unless one was a saint. However, there wasn't any danger. When they reached the end, a decently sized star appeared in front of them. It was a small region. Universal Love Saint's aura was restrained, and she didn't dare to release her saint power. She was afraid that the laws and grand Taos here wouldn't be able to withstand it and would directly shatter this small region. Hua! The clones dispersed, and Yi Qinghan and the Universal Love Saint descended on the planet. This was a planet of life, and it had existed for who knew how many years. Its cultivation was actually not weak, and its great Tao was also very complete. There were upper-level cultivators, but no saints. There were tens of thousands of cities, and they were incomparably majestic. Universal Love Saint chose a relatively powerful city and landed in the distant wilderness without alarming anyone. Hua! The Saint of Charity pushed the 1-meter-tall ice chariot forward, quickly entering the official road. As soon as she entered the official road, everyone immediately looked over. She was simply too perfect, without a single flaw. Yi Qinghan leaned against the chariot. His handsome and vigorous face did not become ugly because of the death of his physical body. He was still radiating with an evil aura, as if he had fallen asleep. There were many experts. Just like in the great world, the spiritual energy and life energy here were extremely terrifying. The immortal peach tree must have stopped here before, or there wouldn't be so many experts here forever. A city had a few hundred upper-level experts. Even a great world couldn't compare. Most of the people coming and going on the official path were sector lords. There were also some lower and middle-level experts. They couldn't sense Universal Love Saint's aura, so they didn't dare to come over and greet her. They could only discuss from afar and watch, hoping that someone would go over. There would always be people who were daring. A young peak sector lord with great lust actually ran over to greet Universal Love Saint. Universal Love Saint didn't respond, and he actually reached out his hand to push the frost chariot, continuing to pester Universal Love Saint. Hua! The moment he touched the frost war chariot, his entire body was sealed in ice. Even his soul was frozen. He died silently, without any pain. The Saint of Charity didn't even look at him as he pushed Yi Qinghan towards the city. Instantly, the path, Peach Saint Peach Tree Path. Just like this, the ice sculpture stood outside the city for who knew how many years. No one dared to touch it, and even the blazing sun was unable to thaw this unlucky fellow. There were even people who used the fire origin to try and unseal it. In the end, the fire origin was extinguished, but the ice sculpture remained motionless. This was a story for later. The Saint of Universal Love pushed Yi Qinghan into the city. The city was dignified and heavy, and it was incomparably ancient. It was hard to imagine that such a small region could have such powerful cultivators, and so many at that. Yi Qinghan and Universal Love Saint both believed that they were getting closer to the immortal peach tree. Although it was hard to find, it didn't mean it didn't exist. If they wanted to find traces of the immortal peach tree, they had to ask the experts of this small region. The city lord was the best candidate. Universal Love Saint didn't stand on ceremony. She directly pushed Yi Qinghan into the city lord's residence. There were quite a few experts in the city lord's residence. There were quite a few upper-level experts. Yi Qinghan sensed them outside the city lord's residence, but these experts didn't sense the two saints. The guards of the residence looked at Universal Love Saint and instantly lost consciousness. They allowed her to push Yi Qinghan into the city lord's residence. There were still some high-ranking guards in the residence. They were shocked when they saw Yi Qinghan and Universal Love Saint. However, they didn't dare to scold them. They hurriedly knelt and said respectfully, "Junior greets Master. I didn't know you were coming. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Universal Love Saint responded in a low voice and said, "Have the oldest cultivator in your city come out to see me." The high-ranking guard broke out in cold sweat. In the entire city, the one with the highest cultivation was naturally the city lord's ancestor. Ancestor Feng Yang was also the oldest, spanning 1,000,000 years. He was almost a half-saint. How could he come out just because they wanted him to? Ancestor Feng Yang is a grand elder. Junior can't make the decision. How about I inform the city lord? The guard was sweating profusely. Universal Love Saint pushed Yi Qinghan forward. She didn't want to waste any time. She circulated her saint power and said in a deep voice, "Feng Yang, come out to see this saint." Whoosh, boom. The sound was like the sound of nature, but it pierced the ears like thunder. It shocked all the experts in the surroundings. Several figures rushed out of the city lord's residence. They were all in the upper level, but they didn't look old. They were all middle-aged. They looked at Yi Qinghan and Universal Love Saint, and their pupils shrank in horror. Upper-level cultivation wasn't bad. They could see that Yi Qinghan's frost chariot contained a terrifying chill. As for Universal Love Saint, her beauty couldn't hide her strength. Her saintly aura suppressed people's souls. Junior greets the saint. "We didn't know you were coming." Several upper-level cultivators had goosebumps all over their bodies. They knelt on the ground and said in horror, "Where's Feng Yang? Have him come to see me. I have something to ask him," Universal Love Saint said in a deep voice. At this moment, a powerful aura was awakened in the back mountain. It was so powerful that it was almost a saint. It only lacked heaven, earth, man, and an immortal pill. Yi Qinghan and Universal Love Saint didn't believe that the immortal peach tree hadn't tampered with this place. Yi Qinghan's consciousness moved. A hand of nothingness appeared in front of him and reached deep. The hand of nothingness shattered the void and grabbed the half-saint existence. Boom! The half-saint was shocked. He wanted to struggle and escape, but he didn't even have the strength to resist. He was caught and brought to Yi Qinghan. A wisp of consciousness nailed him to the ground, unable to move. Then, the hand of nothingness dissipated. The half-saint stood there in a daze. Universal Love Saint was expressionless. She stared at the old man and said indifferently, "You're Feng Yang? Why are you running? I won't kill you." Feng Yang's face was pale. He didn't see how Universal Love Saint attacked. He didn't even use a wisp of her aura. He didn't know that the one who attacked him wasn't Universal Love Saint, but Yi Qinghan on the frost chariot. "Hi Sage. Junior didn't offend you?" Feng Yang said in horror. Universal Love Saint replied indifferently, "I didn't say you offended me. I just have some questions for you. Bring us to a quiet place. If your answers are satisfactory, I don't mind giving you some opportunities." Feng Yang was pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly brought Universal Love Saint to the back mountain's forbidden area. Chapter 2163. Charity Saint pushed Yi Qinghan and followed Feng Yang. In the blink of an eye, they appeared at the back of the mountain. It was like a small secret realm. There were indeed mutated immortal peach trees here. There were only 7 or 8 of them, but they were all mature. The scenery was pleasant and the spiritual energy was dense. Yi Qinghan did not say anything. Charity Saint already knew what he was thinking, so he asked, "Have you ever seen an immortal peach tree? It has already reached the heavens. These mutated immortal peach trees are formed from its fruits." Feng Yang's expression changed. He hurriedly said respectfully, "Upper Saint, our ancestors once passed down a saying that those who see an immortal peach tree can become a saint. But until now, no one has ever seen it." Charity Saint smiled faintly and asked, "Since no one has seen it, why did your ancestors say that those who see an immortal peach tree can become a saint? If they haven't seen it, how would they know that there is an immortal peach tree?" This saying was enough to prove that the immortal peach tree was definitely here. Moreover, people had discovered it. These mutated immortal peach trees were proof. Feng Yang did not know how to refute. This saying was a legend, but no one had verified it. He had also never seen an immortal peach tree. "Where did you get these mutated immortal peach trees?" Charity Saint asked. Feng Yang frowned and thought for a while. He replied, "My father found them in a mountain when I was a child. At that time, they were still seedlings. When I was young, I especially liked to eat peaches. Therefore, he spent a lot of effort to transplant 10 or so immortal peach trees here. However, a few died along the way." "Location, bring us there," Charity Saint said in a low voice. Feng Yang hesitated. After all, too much time had passed. The sun and moon had moved, and the mountains and rivers had changed. The location back then had long been blurred. However, the general location could still be determined. He brought the two of them out of the ancient city. Outside the ancient city, the mountain range rose and fell like divine dragons. It was vigorous and majestic. Although it was a small region, it was still filled with the pressure of a large world. The mountain was filled with fog. The waterfall seemed to have broken through the Milky Way, rushing down from the sky to the ground. Water and spiritual energy were very suitable for human cultivation. Although it was also a small region, it was more suitable for cultivators to live in than the land of the 9 prefectures. Boom! The frost war chariot landed in a valley, surrounded by towering mountain ranges. Spiritual chi covered the sky and was extremely dense. Feng Yang looked around suspiciously. Too much time had passed, and he was unable to pinpoint the exact location. He could only remember that his father was hunting beasts in the vicinity. He said, "Hi Sage, it should be around here." The Universal Love Saint's divine sense covered 1,000 miles, searching for traces of immortals. A will soared into the sky, covering thousands of miles. Every corner was under his control, and a domain was born. Every blade of grass, every tree, and even the rustling of the wind could not escape the control of this will. At this moment, Feng Yang realized that the real strongest person was the muddle-headed man lying on the frost chariot. "Hiss, hiss, hiss." Feng Yang was stunned as his eyes were filled with shock. From their appearances, Yi Qinghan and Charity Saint looked very young, but he knew that Charity Saint definitely had a much longer history than him. However, Yi Qinghan was different. Yi Qinghan was too young. He had at most a few tens of thousands of years of history. It could be seen from his brows. To be able to become a saint after cultivating for tens of thousands of years, what kind of freakish existence was this? Moreover, he was even stronger than Charity Saint. This kind of existence was beyond his comprehension. Whoosh, whoosh, the frost chariot moved on its own. It soared into the sky and appeared thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye. In front of it was a deep pit that spanned several miles. It looked like an ancient tree that had been uprooted. Although Yi Qinghan could not see, his divine sense was his eyes. It covered a radius of several miles. He controlled his will and scooped up a handful of soil from the depths of the pit. He had seen immortal peaches before. The immortal peach tree's aura was connected to immortal peaches. At this moment, he was almost certain that this was where the immortal peach tree had taken root. However, too much time had passed, and the immortal qi was too faint. Feng Yang and Charity Saint came to Yi Qinghan's side. When Feng Yang looked at Yi Qinghan again, his eyes were filled with fear and respect, even though it was just a corpse. Charity Saint came to Yi Qinghan's back and held his cold hand. He asked, "Is this where the immortal peach tree took root? If we can prove that this is the place, then it means that we are on the right path. We will find it sooner or later." Yi Qinghan wanted to hold Charity Saint's hand tightly, but his hands were completely numb. Although his body was still his, it was not his. This feeling made him feel helpless and sad. Charity Saint was also helpless. The only thing that could help him now was the immortal peach tree. Whether it could save him or not, this was still an opportunity. "Feng Yang, how many planets are there in this small region?" A dozen words appeared above the pit, filled with immortal might. Feng Yang's hair stood on end. At this moment he somewhat understood Yi Qinghan's state. He did not dare to ask more and hurriedly replying, "Exalted sage, there are tens of thousands of small regions that are connected. Although they are based on countless planets, I'm afraid they are not much smaller than a greater world." After Yi Qinghan heard this, he actually felt a little tired. He naturally knew how big a greater world was, but he did not expect that the combination of countless small regions would be so large that even a sage would feel helpless. "It's okay. We will search one by one. We will find it eventually." Charity Saint hurriedly comforted him. Yi Qinghan could only chuckle bitterly. His soul could control everything, and he could look down on millions upon millions of stars. If he wanted to find the immortal peach tree, then even if a great sage came, what could he do? A wave of resentment surged out of Yi Qinghan's body. Murderous intent overflowed. Even a half-sage like Feng Yang could not withstand it. He coughed up blood and retreated. His face was pale. He could not withstand even half of Yi Qinghan's aura. Yi Qinghan was indeed very angry. He could not be without desires. He constantly wanted to kill the Holy Lord and the 9 prefectures' lord to vent his anger. His murderous intent spread throughout the valley. Yi Qinghan's soul spun rapidly. If he wanted to find the immortal peach tree, he might as well let it find him. If he wanted the tree to find him, there was only one way, and that was to find Bailey Longxian's corpse and soul. Once I find Bailey Longxian's corpse and soul, I don't have to worry about it not coming to find me. Yi Qinghan secretly pondered. He made up his mind and decided to give up on finding the immortal peach tree. Instead, he prepared to find Bailey Longxian. "Go back." Yi Qinghan condensed 2 words filled with will. "You want to give up? We still have a chance." Charity Saint said in a deep voice. "No, we will talk on the way back." Yi Qinghan condensed a few more words. Then, the war chariot turned on its own and sped away. Charity Saint had no choice but to push the war chariot back. Yi Qinghan continuously condensed large words and expressed his thoughts. Finally, Charity Saint was convinced and chose to give up on finding the immortal peach tree. The war chariot sped along as fast as lightning. It turned into a shooting star and traveled 1,000 miles in a flash. Charity Saint had been rushing along for dozens of years. His speed became faster and faster as he rushed to the coiling Dragon Island. The two rested for several months and adjusted their condition. A few days later, they entered the outside world. Once again, they rushed into the sky-reaching church's territory. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura. He had not communicated with Charity Saint for more than 10 years. Suddenly, 3 large words appeared in front of him. Go to hell. Chapter 2164. Hell was a special place. It was not in the same space as the outside world, but it was connected. As long as one understood the order, it was easy to enter. This situation was nothing to a saint. The order of hell covered most of the outside world, including the sky-reaching church. Charity Saint destroyed the order and brought Yi Qinghan and the Frost Chariot into hell. The saint's aura surged through the galaxy and swept through the 18 districts of hell, alarming the Lord of Hell. The Lord of Hell was shocked when he saw Yi Qinghan rushing towards the hell tower that suppressed the Saint of Sin. He did not dare to provoke Yi Qinghan, so he could only inform the 9 lords. Cloud Dragon Saint and the others were shocked. The Saint of Sin was personally suppressed by the Saint of Sin. If he was released, who knew how many people would suffer? The lords of the 9 mansions all rushed out of their mansions and quickly shattered the order of hell, rushing into hell from the Holy Empire's territory. They then flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground, rushing towards Yi Qinghan and the Charity Saint. In an instant, 11 saints rushed into hell. The 18 districts could clearly feel the saint's aura. The ghosts and experts with souls all knelt down, not daring to touch the saint's aura. Whoosh 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 dot whoosh. The saints tore through space. Auroras appeared in the dusky hell. 9 streams of light streaked across 1,000,000 miles and destroyed the districts. Charity Saint turned around and looked behind her. She could still feel the aura of the 9 lords. Yi Qinghan calmly let Charity Saint continue forward. However, his heart was filled with killing intent. Today, he must kill a saint to vent his anger. Charity Saint felt Yi Qinghan's killing intent. She stroked his forehead and said softly, "If you kill a saint now, won't you anger the Saint of Sin and start a holy war? Can you bear with it? At least wait until your body recovers and you become a saint." Yi Qinghan could not speak, but his mind was still there. Killing a saint now would not affect the Saint of Sin. He did not say anything about Xia Jiolong's death, so why would he care about a few saints' disciples? Cloud Dragon Saint, I want you to have a taste of what I'm like now. Yi Qinghan sneered. He did not want to kill the Cloud Dragon Sage, but he wanted him to suffer so much that he wished he was dead. Outside the Hell Tower, Yi Qinghan stopped. The Frost War Chariot stood at the entrance of the Hell Tower. The Frost Chariot moved on its own, waiting for the 9 lords to arrive. Are you confident in defeating the 9 of them? Charity Saint asked solemnly. Yi Qinghan was still teasing the soul and did not respond. This time, Yi Qinghan was prepared to use his trump card right from the start. He would first kill a chief, then capture the Cloud Dragon Saint. The Lord of Hell would not dare to make a move. Otherwise, he would let the saints of the insane sect flatten this place. Yi Qinghan had planned every step and was just waiting for the Cloud Dragon Sage and the others to arrive. The Cloud Dragon Sage and the rest sped away, covering a distance of 10,000 miles in the blink of an eye. They quickly appeared in the field of vision and were revered by all living beings, but they did not know that they were walking towards death. Outside the Hell Pagoda, a violent gale swept through the area, and the yellow sand danced in the air. The two's hair danced in the wind, and a strand of killing intent burst forth. Woo woo woo, a strand of energy was secretly condensing, and in an instant it exploded. An invisible hand appeared in front of them, breaking through the void and grabbing towards the distance. Its speed was too fast, just like how he condensed the stars into a divine sword. Before anyone could react, the stars were shattered. The Lord of Zhenyun Manor was on the right wing, and at this moment he was sprinting. His speed was fast to begin with, and he just happened to collide with Yi Qinghan's invisible hand and was caught in the palm. The invisible hand released an immortal spell, and a destructive aura spread into the body of Zhenyun Saint. Saint Zhenyun's holy power erupted from within the saint's body. He slammed his palm against the arm of the void hand, trying to shatter it. His final struggle was so terrifying that he actually managed to shatter the void hand controlled by Yi Qinghan. However, his body was tainted with immortal runes, and the endless destructive force quickly eroded his life force. Ah, save me! Whoosh, whoosh bang. Zhen Yun Saint lost control of his body and fell heavily to the ground. After a while, he fainted, and even if he didn't die, he was still severely injured. At this moment, Yi Qinghan waved his hand and shattered the void, forming a divine sword. His aura shattered the void, and his aura was terrifying. Yi Qinghan, how dare you kill the lords of the 9 mansions? Are you declaring war with the Holy Empire? Yunlong Saint was shocked and shouted angrily. This is a personal grudge, and it has nothing to do with the Mad Sect or the Holy Empire. Otherwise, I'll let the Mad Sect destroy your 9 mansions today. Yunlong Saint, you made my life worse than death. Today, I'll let you experience the feeling of being unable to move your body. Every word was soul-stealing, and every word was heart-piercing. Another immortal spell struck into Yunlong Saint's sea of consciousness. Yunlong Saint's hair stood on end, and the other lords were also furious. They didn't expect Yi Qinghan to take the initiative to declare war today. This is between me and Yunlong. If any of you dare to interfere, you'll end up like Zhen Yun Saint. The mad tyrant grass appeared in the starry sky, and it was filled with a supreme will that couldn't be defied. Whoosh! Whoosh! The frost chariot slowly moved forward and took the initiative. A living dead person lying on the frost chariot shocked the 8 lords so much that they didn't dare to move. Yi Qinghan, don't go overboard. It was a fair fight that day, and you were willing to fight. What does this have to do with me? Moreover, you took away a fire saint scripture, some immortal ingredients, and an immortal pill. What else do you want? Yunlong Saint's aura stagnated. Although the battle hadn't started, his aura had already been defeated. He didn't dare to fight with Yi Qinghan. At this moment, the Universal Love Saint walked towards Yi Qinghan, her long skirt swaying in the wind. She looked up at the Cloud Dragon Saint and said indifferently, "Today is a fair battle. If you win, I'll return these 3 items to you. If you lose, you'll be like Qinghan, lying on the chariot, unable to speak or move. Time is a lifetime." Whoosh, whoosh. Yunlong Saint was extremely nervous. He didn't dare to fight at all. This saint has no interest in fighting with a junior. You can't release the Sin Saint today. Otherwise, don't blame us for joining forces to deal with you, Yunlong Saint threatened. With 8 sages attacking at the same time, even if Yi Qinghan and Universal Love Saint worked together, they wouldn't be a match. After all, Yi Qinghan needed time to attack, and he didn't have much defense. What if I insist on releasing him? Yi Qinghan condensed the word immortal, filled with killing intent. Don't. Even Yunlong Saint didn't dare to spout nonsense. If he angered Yi Qinghan, a few sages would die today. No one wanted to die, let alone a sage. As long as such a person wasn't suppressed by a great sage, he would be able to rest easy for the rest of his life. Death would be the end of everything. Within the Hell Pagoda, a soul awakened. In an instant, it covered the entire area. Although the powerful soul wasn't as strong as a great sage's, it was definitely stronger than Yi Qinghan's level. However, the great sage law suppressing him wasn't something he could destroy. Moreover, with the law outside, as long as the Hell Pagoda didn't fall, the Sin Saint couldn't come out. Chapter 2165. QQ Reading and Genesis Chinese Network are the fastest to update. Other channels are lagging. The Sin Saint in Hell woke up. Seeing Yi Qinghan lying on the frost chariot, he was stunned. He was very familiar with this person. After being suppressed for so many years, Yi Qinghan was the only one who came to see him. Moreover, Yi Qinghan was his descendant. Although his bloodline was not pure, he was still his ancestor. It's him. His physical body is dead, but his soul has been sealed as a saint. What kind of saint technique did he cultivate? The Sin Saint's soul could cover Yi Qinghan, but he couldn't leave the Hell Tower, let alone help. When he heard that Yi Qinghan wanted to release him, he was pleasantly surprised. After being suppressed here for so many years, a saint's temperament should have become irritable. He wanted to leave long ago, but all his efforts over the years were in vain. Yi Qinghan's words made the 8 lords not dare to make a sound. However, Yi Qinghan wanted to force them to make a move. Even if he wanted to take revenge today, he had to have a good reason. If you don't want to talk, then scram. Don't delay our work. Charity Saint stepped forward and said coldly. At this time, even ghosts would have thought that a saint could be so cowardly. Other than Zhen Yun, who was lying on the ground, the other lords didn't make a sound. They didn't respond to Yi Qinghan, but they didn't leave either. However, Yi Qinghan couldn't take it anymore. He gathered his immortal sword to steal people's souls. 7-colored lightning tore through space and time. The figure formed by holy power put his palms together and controlled the immortal sword. The tip of the sword was already aimed at Cloud Dragon Saint. Cloud Dragon Saint's hair stood on end. He didn't even say a word and immediately fled. He changed the order and escaped from hell. Yi Qinghan's spiritual power exploded and changed the order of hell. The immortal sword broke through the void and chased after him. The energy swept through hell and changed the Tao of reincarnation. Whoosh! Immortal techniques spread and rushed into the 18th district of hell. The Lord of Hell standing in the distance was terrified. If he knew that the 9 lords didn't dare to fight, he wouldn't have notified them. Boom! In just the blink of an eye, the immortal sword had charged out from hell to enter eternal world. In just the blink of an eye, it had arrived behind Cloud Dragon Sage. The Cloud Dragon Sage screamed in fear and soared into the sky, constantly changing directions. In order to escape, he was practically crawling on the ground, heading deep into the forest. The immortal sword flattened the mountains and rivers, shattering everything. A deep chasm appeared in the great world. It was 10,000 li deep and extended for millions of li. In the end, the immortal sword chi disappeared, turning into powder that scattered in all directions. The other 7 manor heads looked at Yi Qinghan, then looked at the fallen Saint Zhen Yun. Without any hesitation, they fled with him. Yi Qinghan did not make a move against the other manor heads because he was afraid that the Holy Master would act out of desperation and allow the 8 manor heads to leave. When the Lord of Hell looked at Yi Qinghan again, he felt a chill run down his spine. Yi Qinghan's consciousness swept past the Lord of Hell. That terrifying consciousness was like the descent of a great saint, looking down at him as if he was looking at an ant. "Greetings, Saint Yi." The Lord of Hell pretended to be calm and bowed. Yi Qinghan and the Lord of Hell had been enemies for a long time. In the future holy war, they would definitely be on opposite sides. At this moment, he would not give the Lord of Hell any face, so he directly condensed a word and sent it to the Lord of Hell. Scram. The word immortal was filled with murderous intent, and immortal spells surged like a mighty river. The Lord of Hell's expression changed. Since he became a saint, even a great saint would not be so rude. This was the first time he was scolded like this, but he did not dare to refute. Humph! The Lord of Hell snorted and clenched his fists. He stared at Yi Qinghan for a while, then turned and left. Yi Qinghan did not look at the Lord of Hell again. Instead, he was resting and gathering his spiritual energy, preparing to break through the Hell Pagoda and release the Sin Saint. The Sin Saint looked at Yi Qinghan from inside the pagoda, his eyes filled with shock. Back then, Yi Qinghan was only a realm lord. How long had it been since then? Now, his physical body was dead and his soul had become a saint. This was a miracle. It really is him. I didn't see wrong. His bloodline and appearance have not changed. Saint Sin was powerful, and looking at Yi Qinghan, it was easy to tell that he wasn't much stronger than Yi Qinghan. Saint Sin himself had been a hero of his time, a man who looked down on his peers with disdain. He had even believed that he would surpass the great sage level. Unfortunately, he had been suppressed by the sacred Lord. Am I old, or have the times changed? Although the Cloud Dragon Saint was not the strongest saint, he was not weak either. But when faced with the Sin Saint, he did not even have the courage to resist. Zhen Yun Saint was suppressed with a single palm, and his fate is unknown. Can he kill a saint? Does he cultivate an immortal spell? The Sin Saint murmured. He felt that he had lost touch with the times. 3 days and 3 nights passed in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan finally awoke from his meditative state. His divine sense covered the Hell Pagoda, covering the entire surface of the pagoda. The great sage forbidden magic was surrounded by immortal light. Yi Qinghan had been studying the great sage forbidden magic and had found an opening. His divine sense retreated, and his psychic power surged. His soul circulated to its peak, and he formed a human figure that stood proudly in the air. With a wave of his hand, he shattered the void, then formed an immortal sword that pierced through the void like a meteor, shooting toward the Hell Pagoda. Boom. The sword was powerful enough to shatter mountains and shatter the earth. It could even kill saints. When it slammed into the Hell Pagoda, even hell itself trembled. The Hell Pagoda's defenses were activated, and the two beams of light slammed into each other. Surprisingly, the great sage forbidden magic did not shatter, but it was on the verge of collapse. Yi Qinghan's condensed silhouette grabbed at the Hell Pagoda and actually crushed it. Boom. Bang. The Hell Pagoda shattered, and the great sage forbidden magic dissipated. The earth quaked, and hell trembled. The gods and ghosts of hell knelt in awe. Saint Sin shot up into the air, the chains binding his limbs taut. But without the suppression of the Hell Pagoda, the chains shattered. I'm finally free. Xiaozhang, you old bastard. Saint Sin roared, and his sage light roared, shattering the shackles on his legs. His sage light was sharp, and he didn't look very old. At most, he looked to be in his 40s or 50s. And yet, his aura was comparable to that of a great sage. Back in the day, Saint Sin had been like the sun in the midday sky, and was definitely stronger than a great sage. Despite being suppressed for countless years, his cultivation base had remained the same. In fact, he had even made some progress. Now, he was even stronger than before, although there was still some distance between him and the great sage level. Saint Charity was shocked and quickly pushed the war chariot backward. Saint Sin had been widely acknowledged as the most powerful great sage back in the day. He was arrogant and unruly, and refused to admit defeat to anyone. Saint Charity wasn't sure if Yi Qinghan had made the right decision in releasing him. Saint Sin looked down at Yi Qinghan, his face expressionless, causing Saint Charity's hair to stand on end. Saint Charity, the proudest goddess in the holy land of Oshi. Saint Sin said coolly, a profound smile on his face. I never would have guessed that you'd be pushing a wheelchair for him. Have you become his follower? This has nothing to do with you, madman, Saint Charity said coldly. If Yi Qinghan has decided to release you, I won't stop him. But if you dare to bite the hand that feeds you, I'll make sure you stay alive even if I have to die. Feng Bufan was Saint Sin's real name. Back in the day, he was known as the Madman. Because of his wild and arrogant ways of doing things, he was no different from a madman. Feng Bufan smiled coldly, and his aura of wild violence filled his golden body. His resentment was so strong that it was almost tangible. After being imprisoned for so long, even a great sage would feel resentment. Chapter 2166. Feng Bufan's killing intense soared to the sky as he gathered his resentment and sneered. Charity Saint's hair stood on end as he glared at Feng Bufan, killing intent surging out of his body. The light in his eyes changed into a vortex that could devour everything. Feng Bufan looked disdainfully at Charity Saint and said coldly, "Stupid girl, how dare you try to kill me? Do you know what's the relationship between Yi Qinghan and me?" Charity Saint really didn't know. Yi Qinghan was already out of strength and had fallen into a deep slumber. There was no way to explain this. Feng Bufan laughed self-deprecatingly and shook his head. Who would have thought that after being arrogant all my life, I'd be saved by a descendant today? Universal Love Saint was shocked. He looked at Yi Qinghan and then at Feng Bufan. They didn't look alike, but their temperaments were very similar. The only difference was that Yi Qinghan was more sinister and bright, while Feng Bufan was a bit crazy. To put it bluntly, he only had courage and no strategy. To put it even blunter, he was brainless. Feng Bufan looked at Yi Qinghan, who'd been sitting in a wheelchair all this time. Apart from his head, he hadn't moved at all since he'd appeared. He'd relied on his soul to control his will and mental strength. What's wrong with his body? Feng Bufan frowned. Charity Saint was still cautious. He retreated a bit to maintain a safe distance. His body is dead, and his soul is tainted with the aura of death. Unless he ascends to the great sage realm and reconstructs his golden body, he'll be a living dead for the rest of his life. Who beat him up like this? Feng Bufan's killing intent surged. It seemed he wanted to vent. Cloud Dragon Sage injured him before he ascended to the great sage realm, replied Charity Saint. Only then did Feng Bufan remember that Yi Qinghan had chased after Cloud Dragon Sage with an immortal art. So this was the reason for his hatred. That Yi Qinghan woke up at this time and condensed a few simple words. Even a forefather like Feng Bufan couldn't refute these words. Come with me to Kuang Manor. I need your help with something. After that, Yi Qinghan shattered the order of hell and brought the two of them to Fire Beacon City, the sacred land of Sword Dao in the Heavenspan sect. As soon as he entered Fire Beacon City, Yi Qinghan remembered that the souls of Qin Feng Hua and the others were still imprisoned by him and had yet to recover. Even if he could no longer use them, he still had to return the favor. Unfortunately, their souls were still trapped in the depths of his knowledge sea and could not be released. He could only wait for his physical body to recover before he could rescue them. In less than a month, they traversed the eternal sacred land and the Battle Clan's territory and reached the entrance to 9 Provinces Madness Manor. Charity Saint pushed Yi Qinghan into 9 State Madness Manor. At this time, Emperor Absolute Saint had already set up camp here. The outer palaces were all built. They were probably going to give up on the Oshi sacred ground. At least before the sacred war began, they would not be able to return to the Oshi sacred ground. Now, Absolute Saint and the 4 sages could only rely on Yi Qinghan, the 18 sages of Mad Sect, Yi Qinghan, your saint, and the other sages to deal with the Spectre Forefather. After entering 9 State Madness Manor, Yi Qinghan went straight to the point. He condensed the immortal character and asked, "Do you know where Bailey Longxian is imprisoned?" When Feng Bufan was suppressed, it was when the Saint Lord had started his expedition. Feng Bufan had caused trouble several times and didn't hold back his words, which angered the Saint Lord. Thus, the Saint Lord directly suppressed him. Bailey Longxian was one of the first experts to be suppressed. Feng Bufan might really know his location. Bailey Longxian. Feng Bufan frowned as he thought about what had happened in the past. Many things had happened when Bailey Longxian was imprisoned. In order to hide Bailey Longxian's body and soul, the First Prime had placed bait everywhere. It wouldn't be easy to find Bailey Longxian's body and soul. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Could he have imprisoned Bailey Longxian's body and soul in the Coiling Dragon's secret realm? Universal Love Saint doubted. Xia Zhiyang, that old bastard, wouldn't be so stupid. There was once a heaven-defying immortal peach tree in the Coiling Dragon's secret realm. If he hid there, the immortal peach tree would definitely be able to find the Bailey Longxian. Feng Bufan replied with certainty. Yi Qinghan didn't expect Feng Bufan to know about the immortal peach tree. He hurriedly condensed the immortal character and asked, "Then do you know how to find the immortal peach tree?" Feng Bufan shook his head and replied bluntly, "Unless the immortal peach tree finds us, we can't find it. It's already connected to the heavens and the earth. Although it can't attack, if you find it, it'll most likely be able to save your golden body and soul." Yi Qinghan naturally knew that the key lay with the immortal peach tree. However, he couldn't find it. The only thing he could find now was Bailey Longxian. If he found Bailey Longxian, the immortal peach tree would naturally summon him. Bailey Longxian, the key lay with him. Yi Qinghan sat dispiritedly on the war chariot. He couldn't speak, he couldn't move. He was indeed very pitiful. This was perhaps the most helpless sage. If possible, I'd rather return to the upper level of cultivation to be able to move, Yi Qinghan laughed bitterly. He used his divine sense to observe the heavenly imprisoning Tao scripture. He was very curious about the 3rd page. Perhaps this immortal scripture could also save his body and cut off the deathless aura. At the thought of this, Yi Qinghan's spirit shook. He had been placing his hopes on outsiders recently. How could he have forgotten about his trump card? No matter how heavenly the immortal peach tree was, it couldn't be compared to the heavenly imprisoning Tao scripture. Buddha Yi Qinghan was filled with confidence once again. He wanted to comprehend the sixth style even if it meant his life. He hoped to unlock the third page of the heavenly imprisoning Tao scripture and find a way to save himself. Help me find Bailey Longxian's location. I need to go into seclusion for a while. Yi Qinghan condensed the word immortal and then drove the war chariot alone into the depths. At this moment, Yan Ao was training the army in the depths of the 9 states' wild manor. 5 million soldiers had already gathered. Lin Wutian and the others had already transported all the experts of the 9 states to the 9 states' wild manor. Yi Mingxi and Yi Chentian no longer guarded the mausoleum and followed the army into the 9 states' wild manor. The resources here were more abundant than in the outside world. After all, it had not been developed for so many years. The resources here were all over the place. Yi Qinghan drove the war chariot alone. So what if he didn't have a physical body? He still looked down on the sages. In addition to the army, there was also the outer sect. The outer sect was controlled by Gu Qingyu, Emperor Yi, and Jian Chenxue. The army was controlled by Yan Ao and Huang Peng. The inner sect was controlled by Lin Wutian and Jiang Jingtian. The overall situation of the 9 states' wild manor was always in the hands of Yi Qinghan. At this moment, more than 300 million people had poured into the 9 states' wild manor. The strongest were half-saints and the weakest were ordinary cultivators. They could only enter the 9 states' wild manor after passing the assessment. Some strong sects even wanted to join but were rejected. After all, their disciples were not loyal to the 9 states' wild manor but to the strong sections. The strong sects were rejected but the wealthy families did not give up. Now that the outside world was in a state of chaos, the wealthy families knew that they could not protect themselves and began to think about joining the 9 states' wild manor. The clan elder and patriarch of the Situ Hao clan, the ruler of the northern Shuejia Pass of the Battle clan, had personally come to the 9 states' wild manor and presented an audience invitation. They hoped to see Yi Qinghan. The audience invitation was delivered to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan looked at the invitation and was silent for a moment. Then he agreed. Chapter 2167. The Sidu clan had even prepared a banquet for Fanning and Yi Qinghan in Shuejia Pass. However, they left in a hurry and did not even have a meal. The Sidu clan had wanted to invite Fanning several times. Yi Qinghan had also heard about this clan from Fanning. They were not bad people and had a good upbringing. Their ancestral teachings had been strictly followed, which was why they had survived for so many years and become an ancient clan. Yi Qinghan was waiting for the experts of the Situ clan in the main hall of the inner sect of the crazed sect. At this time, the strongest clan elder and clan leader of the Situ clan were leading the 2 twin sisters in a hurry. They looked excited and seemed to be looking forward to this meeting. The enforcers of the crazed sect brought the 4 of them to the inner sect of the crazed sect. The clan elder had white hair and the clan leader was a middle-aged man. Compared to the other clan elders and clan leaders of the other clans, he was much gentler. He did not seem to be arrogant and looked like an ordinary elder in the village. Yi Qinghan sat in the frost chariot. The temperature in the room was a little cold and it was a little awkward because there was only Yi Qinghan in the room. He did not speak. The Situ clan elder and clan leader were at a loss. As for the twin sisters, they were very uncomfortable and did not even dare to raise their heads. Sit. The word, immortal, condensed and directly entered their consciousness. It was as if there was a voice and it was filled with will. The 4 of them did not dare to stand and sat down. The Situ clan elder had a ruddy complexion and white hair. He had a gentle face and said respectfully, "Saint Yi, I did not know that you came to Shuejia Pass that year. Otherwise, I would have gone there personally and treated you to a meal. Today, I am very uneasy to come to you for help again. It's okay. Let's get straight to the point." Yi Qinghan silently condensed the word, immortal, and replied calmly. The Situ clan elder gestured to Yi Qinghan. The 4 of them stood up and wanted to kneel in front of Yi Qinghan. However, Yi Qinghan would not accept their kneeling. They stopped halfway and could not kneel down. The Situ clan elder looked at Yi Qinghan awkwardly. Only then did he understand how big the gap between him and Yi Qinghan was. Without his permission, he could not even move. The Situ clan elder said respectfully, "Saint Yi, you know that the sacred war and Shuejia Pass is at a strategic location, so too. And wealth, but our. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. He did not respond to the Situ clan elder, which made the Situ clan elder a little anxious. If it's too difficult for you, Saint Yi, I'd be happy to have the Situ clan marry the talents of the Kuang sect. Although my 2 daughters are not outstanding beauties, they are still 1 in a million. Moreover, their cultivation talent is not bad. If it's possible, you can choose 2 outer sect disciples to marry them." "This old man has nothing to say," the elder of the Situ clan quickly said. Yi Qinghan looked at the Situ clan elder with his divine sense. He condensed the word, immortal, again and asked, "How old are you? Do you remember when the Sacred Empire destroyed the 10 great secret realms?" The Situ clan elder was stunned. He quickly shook his head and said, "I was still young at that time. I did not have the slightest impression. However, my father had recorded the events of that year. Those books are still in the hidden scriptures pavilion of my clan. If Saint Yi needs them, I will go back and get them for you." Yi Qinghan was suddenly happy. He condensed the word, immortal, and asked, "Is it detailed?" "Very detailed. Back then, my clan was not a wealthy clan. We mainly focused on information. If our information is not detailed enough, then we can only look for the Heavenly Chant Dojo," the Situ clan elder said. Yi Qinghan's soul moved. He did not expect the Heavenly Chant Dojo to have such information. He had never seen the owner of the Heavenly Chant Dojo. He did not even know if the owner was a man or a woman. Moreover, he did not know if this person was from the Sacred Empire. "You go to Lin Wutian and ask him to take you to Shuejia Pass to get the information. Only the Situ clan can migrate here." Yi Qinghan condensed the word, immortal, and sent it into the Situ clan elder's sea of consciousness. The Situ clan elder was overjoyed and thanked him repeatedly. Yi Qinghan had to prepare for both sides. On one hand, he had to find the body of Bailey Longxian. On the other hand, he had to focus on the heaven-imprisoning Taoist scripture. The Situ clan elder quickly found Lin Wutian and told him about Yi Qinghan's instructions. Lin Wutian thought about it and took the 4 young saints, Si Wuxia, Di Longtian, Tong Tong, and the heavenly sword physique Lin Shukong. The 5 of them took the Situ clan elder 3 days to arrive at Shuejia Pass. Now, there were many experts in Shuejia Pass. There were spies from various clans. There were many experts and murderous aura, making people nervous. War could come to Shuejia Pass at any time. Even the Situ clan was extremely low-key at this moment, afraid of attracting trouble. As soon as the 5 saints appeared in Shuejia Pass, everyone became obedient. Even the spies did not dare to make any moves for fear of angering the saints. Lin Wutian took the 4 young saints and the Situ clan elder into the Situ clan. He went straight to the scripture pavilion and moved all the records of the past into the storage ring. "The 4 of you escort the Situ clan as they migrate. I will take the ancient books back to the 9 states' arrogant mansions for master." Lin Wutian looked at the 4 young saints and said in a deep voice, "The 4 of you, don't mess around. If anything goes wrong during the migration, go and explain to master yourselves. I will not take care of you." Tong Tong and the heavenly sword physique Lin Shukong did not dare to say anything. However, Si Wuxia smiled and said, "Senior brother, don't worry. I'm here. I know what to do." Lin Wutian did not say anything else. He took the hundreds of ancient books and rushed back to the 9 states' arrogant mansions. No one dared to stop him. Even the 9 mansion lords did not dare to confront this monster. After all, he was on par with Xia Jiolong. The ancient books were quickly delivered to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan read the ancient books with his divine sense. He condensed the word, immortal, and said, "Wutian, help me look for information about Bailey Longxian." There were hundreds of books. Each book was half the height of a person. Even a saint would need some time to read them. Lin Wutian called over 100 inner sect juniors to read the ancient books. They read for 5 days. Yi Qinghan stayed in the main hall for 5 days. Finally, he extracted all the information about Bailey Longxian. There were hundreds of pieces of information about the Great War of the Coiling Dragon Realm. These pieces of information could only show how powerful the Coiling Dragon Realm was. In the end, the Sacred Lord buried Bailey Longxian's body. Even so, there were still 18 pieces of information. Master, in general, the Sacred Lord released 12 smokescreens in order to bury Bailey Longxian's body. There were also dozens of misleading pieces of information. They represented 12 ancient tombs and dozens of small tombs. Those small tombs have been opened one by one, but Bailey Longxian's body was not found. Only these 12 ancient tombs have a rough location. However, one thing is for sure, Bailey Longxian's body is in these 12 regions. Lin Wutian dismissed the 100 inner sect juniors. He sorted out the information by himself and said respectfully, "Which 12 locations?" Yi Qinghan condensed the word immortal and asked. Chapter 2168. The hall was extremely quiet, exuding a faint sage's aura. Yi Qinghan asked after a short silence, "Which 12 locations?" Lin Wutian sorted out the information and spread it out in his hand. There is a great tomb in the Sealing Sky Prison, and 3 in the Holy Empire. There is an ancient great tomb in the Zhenyun Prefecture, 1 in the Yunlong Prefecture, and 1 in the Kaiyun Prefecture. These are the 4 places. 2 more are in the Holy Land of Xishiang. 1 is in the deep mountains in the northwest of the Holy Land of Xishiang, 1 is in the mountains in the southeast, and 1 is in the Azura domain, where the chess saint fought to become a saint. 2 more are in the snowy mountains in the extreme north, 1 is in the 18th district of Hell, and 1 is in the Great Fortune Mountain behind the Holy Lord Mountain. The last one is at the border between the Heaven-Reaching Church and the Holy Empire, Lin Wutian explained. However, too much time has passed. Even if the tombs were buried in the ground back then, because of the movement of the mountains and rivers and the passage of time, the locations of the tombs should have changed. Therefore, these locations are not very accurate. Lin Wutian reminded him helplessly. Spread the word to the world that the Guangzong sect will take over the world. As long as they have a skill, the Guangzong sect will collect them and use them as a cover. Our main purpose is to recruit the tomb raiders and start robbing tombs. Dig out these 18 tombs and find the body of Bailey Longxian. Yi Qinghan condensed the word immortal around Lin Wutian. After so many years, even if the tombs had moved with the mountains and rivers, there should be some traces. The strongest tomb raiders could definitely find the true location of the 18 tombs. The reason why no one dared to find the 18 tombs for so many years was that there was not enough profit. Use the immortal elixir as bait. Recruit the strongest tomb raiders into the crazy sect. Yi Qinghan was resolute. In order to find the body of Bailey Longxian, he did not hesitate to use the immortal elixir. He only had one purpose now, and that was to stand up. Yes, master. Lin Wutian understood Yi Qinghan's current state. In order to find the body of Bailey Longxian, he was willing to pay any price, let alone the immortal elixir. A few days later, a message erupted from every direction. With Xuejia Pass as the focal point and Eternal World as the surface, a net was formed to envelop Eternal World. The crazy sect offers elixirs as a form of welfare. It gathers all the people with extraordinary abilities in the world. Those who have special skills, such as craftsmen, gardeners, craftsmen, master craftsmen, and tomb raiders, as long as they are the strongest in a certain field, will be given elixirs and sage techniques. This piece of news shocked the world. This kind of extravagance had not been seen for countless years, and it stirred the hearts of many people with extraordinary abilities. They were focused on researching their own strengths, but they were even more eager to become saints and develop their specialties to the point of becoming saints. No one suspected that the Guangzong wanted to rob tombs. They thought that Yi Qinghan had nothing better to do and had too many elixirs to use, so he wanted to develop his unorthodox sect. In a split second, all the experts with special abilities made their move and rushed towards the 9 States Madness Manor. No matter how great the danger was, it couldn't stop their pilgrimage mentality. In less than a month, a large number of experts with special abilities poured into the border of the war race and appeared at the entrance of the 9 States Madness Manor. Lin Wuqian personally received these experts with special abilities outside, and Emperor Yi was mainly responsible for recruiting tomb raiders, who would be tested in the 9 States Madness Manor. All the spies from various forces who disguised themselves as spies were killed without mercy. A few days later, a mass grave appeared outside the 9 States Madness Manor. Countless experts were killed, and the spies of the major forces didn't dare to act recklessly anymore. Just as the crazy sect was gathering all the experts with special abilities, there were always people courting death. One of the 3,000 strongest sects in the Xishiang Sacred Ground relied on the protection of the Xishiang Sacred Ground to block and kill the experts with special abilities heading towards the 9 States Madness Manor. They blocked several paths to the 9 States Madness Manor. There were many spies in the crazy sect now, and they quickly found out the truth and sent the information to the 9 States Madness Manor. Lin Wuqian was right outside the 9 States Madness Manor. He waved his hand and crushed the information, revealing a trace of killing intent at the corner of his mouth. Those who offend the crazy sect will be killed no matter how far away they are. At this time, Si Wuxie, Lin Shukong, and the other 3 minor saints were escorting the Situ Hao clan from the Shuejia Pass to the 9 States Madness Manor. Come, you 4 little guys, I'll give you a mission. Take 100,000 outer sect disciples and kill your way into the Heavenly Wolf Manor in the southwest of the Xishiang Sacred Ground. Wipe out this strong sect for me. If the Xishiang Sacred Ground dares to stop you, we'll flatten it together. Lin Wuqian said coldly. Among the 4 minor saints, only Si Wuxie was considered mature. The others didn't have the heart of a saint. When they heard that they were going to wipe out a strong sect and a sacred ground, they were ecstatic. Lin Wuqian looked at Si Wuxie and nodded, indicating that he shouldn't act recklessly. After all, a sacred ground was a sacred ground, and the main thing was to intimidate them. Si Wuxie naturally understood. He asked Lin Shukong to go to the 9 States Madness Manor and mobilize the 100,000 outer sect disciples. He also asked for more than 100 young experts from the inner sect. Together, they stepped out of the 9 States Madness Manor and headed straight for the Xishiang Sacred Ground. The faces of the higher-ups of the Xishiang Sacred Ground changed. They quickly asked for help from the Holy Empire. However, the experts of the 9 States Madness Manor were like a hot knife through butter. They broke through the city continuously. Although they didn't kill, their momentum was enough to scare people to death. Everyone was terrified and didn't dare to stop them. Even the city guards didn't dare to act recklessly. They just opened the gates and watched the army leave. In the southwest, the Heavenly Wolf Manor was still trying to stop the people with special abilities. When they heard that the 4 minor saints of the 9 States Madness Manor were here, they realized that they were wrong. They quickly asked for help from the Xishiang Sacred Ground. However, the Xishiang Sacred Ground couldn't even protect themselves and had to ask for help from the Holy Empire. How could they have the time to save them? The higher-ups of the Heavenly Wolf Manor gathered together in fear to discuss countermeasures. Some wanted to escape, some wanted to surrender, and some wanted to fight to the death. However, they didn't manage to come up with a solution. The 100,000 outer sect disciples under the leadership of 100 inner sect disciples had already surrounded the headquarters of the Heavenly Wolf Manor. The 4 minor saints were in the air. The minor saints didn't want to fight with the mortals. They were only here to intimidate the Xishiang Sacred Ground and bring the outer sect disciples here to gain experience. Too many of the higher-ups ran away without fighting. They rushed into the void. However, they were intercepted by the inner sect disciples as soon as they reached the sky. A few super experts broke through the void. However, they couldn't escape from the hands of the minor saints. They were crushed by the 4 minor saints. The higher-ups of the Heavenly Wolf Manor, one of the 3,000 strongest sects, were wiped out in half a day. No one survived. The official army of the Heavenly Wolf Manor that was responsible for intercepting the people with special abilities fought separately. They were herded together by the 100,000 outer sect disciples. There were more than 300,000 people. They were originally a ferocious army. However, they were now in fear and despair. They knelt down and begged for mercy. Kill one as a warning to the others. Don't think that the Heavenly Wolf Manor is easy to bully. Bury these 300,000 official army deep in the mountains. Si Wuxia waved his hand and ordered the inner sect disciples. In an instant, the outer sect disciples of the Heavenly Wolf Manor were full of vigor. They drew their swords and began to kill. They killed until the heavens and the earth collapsed. The mountains and rivers cracked. Blood flowed like a river. The smell of blood could be smelled from 1,000,000 miles away in the Xixiang sacred ground. The Xixiang sacred ground didn't dare to speak. The Holy Empire received the call for help. The Cloud Dragon Sage was furious. He joined forces with the other 7 minor saints of the Heavenly Wolf Manor to eliminate them. Chapter 2169. The 4 minor saints led 100,000 outer sect disciples to destroy the Sirius Divine Prefecture. They didn't even pause for a moment before retreating from the Xixiang Divine Prefecture. When the Cloud Dragon Sage arrived at the Sirius Divine Prefecture with the 7 prefecture lords and the Xixiang Sage, he was filled with anger when he saw the corpses piled up like mountains. The Cloud Dragon Sage didn't dare to chase them to the 9 prefectures' Divine Prefecture. Whenever he heard the name Yi Qinghan, his expression would change. Command the world. Surround all the people with special abilities. Don't let them go to the 9 prefectures' Divine Prefecture. The Cloud Dragon Sage said angrily. The Xixiang Sage smiled bitterly. After today's incident, do you think there will be anyone who dares to provoke the crazy sect? Crack, crack, crack. The Cloud Dragon Sage clenched his fists and said coldly, "Then let's lure the snake out of its hole and suppress the sages they send. I don't believe there's an immortal behind him. If there was, he would have done it long ago. Why would he lie in a wheelchair like a living dead? The exalted sacred lord is afraid of him, but I'm not. If he doesn't die, I'll die. So even if I die, I'll drag him down with me. Just do what you need to do. I'll take care of everything." The Cloud Dragon Sage was afraid. If he killed Yi Qinghan, it would at most be a life and death struggle. However, if Yi Qinghan didn't die, he would definitely kill him. If he ended up like Yi Qinghan and became a living dead, he would rather die like this. At that very moment, those cultivators with extraordinary abilities who had been staying silent for countless years in some corners of Eternal World suddenly moved. Everyone wanted to get their hands on the immortal pills. 1 immortal pill was enough. The fact that Kuang Zong had brought out 9 immortal pills to attract those cultivators with extraordinary abilities gave them the motivation to go crazy. In just a few decades, the 9 prefectures' Divine Prefecture had recruited more than 10,000 people. They might not be able to fight, but they were definitely the best in their field. Some specialized in runes, some specialized in music, and some specialized in restrictions. Grave robbers were a very ancient profession. Even small realms had never lacked such professions since ancient times. This was because the tombs of some ancient Dao transformation cultivators had been buried with treasures that anyone below the sage realm would go crazy over. However, there weren't many tomb raiders who could reach the top. They could deduce the exact location of ancient tombs based on some of their special artifacts. They could even deduce whether the treasures inside were worth mining and how dangerous it was. Every powerful tomb raider had a powerful team behind them. They were usually in groups of 3 to 5, with no more than 9 people. Over the years, at least 300 teams had come. Except for one team that was made up of spies, the rest of the tomb raider organizations weren't bad. Of those who dared to come for the examination, who didn't have a few tricks up their sleeves. The group of tomb raiders was gathered together and sent to Yi Qinghan's seclusion room. Yi Qinghan's divine sense covered the group of tomb raiders and found that their death aura was even thicker than that of the ghosts of hell. They were people who lived on the edge of a blade. The slightest carelessness could cost them the chance to reincarnate. This was a group of tomb raiders who had been punished by the heavens. Who knew how many tombs they had dug up? The several hundred tomb raiders looked at Yi Qinghan. None of them dared to look down on him. Even if they weren't afraid of death, they were afraid of this walking corpse. How good are you at finding ancient tombs? Yi Qinghan looked at the group of tomb raiders. After a long time, he condensed the immortal character and asked. These tomb raiders comprised 30% of the strongest tomb raiders in Eternal World. Among them, there were at least 30 within the top 100. They were familiar with each other. Thus, they knew just how powerful this group of tomb raiders could be when gathered together. They could even dig up sacred tombs. Saying, I wonder what kind of ancient tomb you're looking for? A relatively old man respectfully asked. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. Then he went straight to the point. He condensed the immortal character and replied, the tomb of Bailey Longxian. I need its exact location. I need to find his body. If any of you can find the tomb, I will confer you the title of sage. The heavens will acknowledge you and congratulate you. Yi Qinghan was strong, confident, and resolute. In his opinion, this wasn't a difficult task. As a tomb raider, who didn't know about Bailey Longxian's tomb? However, no one dared to dig it up. Thus, no one went to look for it. The faces of the tomb raiders changed. Who would dare to dig up the great sage buried by a sacred lord? Even if they found it, they wouldn't dare to dig it up. How many lives did they have to dig up the tomb of a great sage? I don't need you to dig it up. I just need you to find the tomb. Yi Qinghan released his aura. The immortal character filled the valley. Back then, the sacred lord buried 18 tombs. Time has passed, and the mountains, rivers, sun, and moon have moved. The tombs' locations have changed. As the most outstanding tomb raiders, I believe that if I give you the location of the tombs, you'll be able to find the current location of the tombs. Is that right? Yi Qinghan's words entered their minds. The immortal character's might surged to the heavens. It contained an incomparable will. The tomb raiders couldn't deny it. Everyone was moved. Not only was it beneficial, but the location of the tombs back then had already been determined. It would save them a lot of trouble. This old man is willing to lend Sage Yi a hand, said the first old man to speak. This old man is also willing. Thank you for thinking so highly of me, Sage Yi. This old man is willing to risk his life to find Bailey Longxian's tomb. Many of the tomb raiders expressed their stance. However, some of them knew that they didn't have the ability and didn't dare to lie to Yi Qinghan. So, they took the initiative to admit that they were inferior. Yi Qinghan gathered all the tomb raiders who were willing to search for the Great Tomb and asked Renhuang Yi to assign a top-notch master from the inner sect of the insane sect to each team. Manage your teams well. Whoever dares to betray the purpose of this operation will be punished together. Don't blame this sage for being ruthless. Yi Qinghan condensed the immortal character. His aura enveloped the tomb raiders and their teams, giving them a stern warning. The inner sect experts were there to supervise the tomb raiders. They were there to ensure their safety and to make it easier for them to send back information. Soon, the insane sect began to clean up the spies at the border of the war race. The tomb raiders were sent out of the 9 states Madness Manor in batches. They disguised themselves as ordinary hunters and rushed to their respective destinations. There were 68 tomb raiding teams, each with an average of 5 people. They moved quickly and disappeared from Eternal World in different directions. Yi Qinghan watched them leave, hoping to find Bailey Longxian as soon as possible. At this moment, Renhuang Yi was pushing Yi Qinghan with a tender expression on his face. Yi Qinghan transformed into her human form and was vivid and lifelike. She gently stroked Renhuang Yi's head, and her eyes were filled with apology and love. You will definitely be able to stand up again. Since these tomb raiders claim to be top-notch, they will definitely be able to find Bailey Longxian's body. Emperor Yi said with determination. Yi Qinghan's human form smiled. Although he couldn't speak, he was filled with tenderness. This time, he had great expectations. Chapter 2170. Dozens of tomb raiders led their own teams in disguise and started searching from the vague locations of the tombs, following the traces of history. It was a vast project that required a lot of time, maybe even 1,000 years. After Yi Qinghan sent the team out, he went into seclusion again to study the Saint Killing Finger and Star Picking Hand. Time flew by, and for a grand cultivator, 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. 100 years later, about half of the dozens of tomb raiders had been killed, and even some of the inner sect disciples had been killed. Clearly, the Holy Empire and its subordinate organizations had surrounded them, and none of them had survived. However, the remaining half found 14 tombs, all of which had been left behind by the Holy Lord to hide the true body of great sage Bailey Longxian. After finding the tombs, the group of tomb raiders did not start mining but instead notified the 9 continents' crazed manner. After receiving the news, Lin Wutian went straight to Yi Qinghan's seclusion place and woke Yi Qinghan up. Yi Qinghan rode the war chariot out of his seclusion place. From the outside, he did not seem to have improved, but only he knew that his soul was at least 30% stronger. Master, we found 14 tombs, all of which are part of the 18 tombs. One of them is in the heaven-suppressing city, the same as the saint's tomb we found before. Lin Wutian quickly reported. Mine them at the same time. I will go to the heaven-suppressing city personally and search for that tomb again. Yi Qinghan formed the word immortal and said. Lin Wutian replied respectfully, yes, these ancient tombs have been shifted away from their original locations. Just like the one in the heaven-suppressing prefecture city, it's the same for the other tombs. Hence, this mission is far away from the Saint Empire, it's not too dangerous. Yi Qinghan listened and simply formed a few words, good. I will leave the rest to you. Find Bailey Longxian's body and inform me immediately. With that, Yi Qinghan rode the war chariot and left for the heaven-suppressing city. Now that the heaven-suppressing city was taken over by the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground, it was as prosperous as ever. Yi Qinghan took only a dozen days to arrive. Yi Qinghan leaned against the frost war chariot with an emotionless face. His black hair had turned silver due to the frost, even his eyelashes were silver. Although he did not look human, he did not look eerie and gloomy. Instead, he looked much better. What? The frost war chariot rolled over the stone slabs, and the top layer of the stone slabs quickly condensed into ice. The sound of rustling echoed, attracting the attention of the people. It's City Lord Yi, he is back. City Lord Yi is back. The citizens of the city didn't change because of Yi Qinghan's departure. Instead, they treated him as their most respected city lord. The heaven suppressing the heaven suppressing the heaven suppressing of the heaven. Yi Qinghan looked at his people and felt gratified. After all, as time passed, he would treat them as family and protect them. As long as they respected him, that was enough. Greetings, City Lord Yi. The spirits stood on both sides of the road respectfully. They knew that Yi Qinghan did not like them kneeling, so they all stood with their backs bowed. And now, the city lord of the heaven-suppressing prefecture was unhappy to see the citizens worshipping Yi Qinghan. However, he did not dare to be jealous of Yi Qinghan. After all, Yi Qinghan was a saint. Go do your own things, I am just here to take a look. Yi Qinghan formed a few golden words in the sky, allowing everyone to see them clearly. After that, Yi Qinghan pushed the frost war chariot into the city. The spirits watched as he left. The respect in their eyes was not because of his strength, but because of his character. Soon, Yi Qinghan drove the war chariot into the south of the city. As soon as he entered the south, a layer of frost blocked the road, preventing others from following him. Wherever Yi Qinghan went, the roads were all sealed and no one could enter. Although the ice seal was extremely cold, it was not enough to kill. Even if someone touched it out of curiosity, they would only be slightly injured and would quickly retreat. Yi Qinghan quickly entered the saint's tomb in the south of the city. The tomb was still the same. The sword forest town was still standing proudly, but nothing could stop him. Yi Qinghan entered the majestic tomb. The tomb's steel-like walls were filled with totem carvings. Back then, he was too weak to see through the tomb's power. But now, he realized that even saints should fear it. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan arrived beside the crystal coffin. His psyche spread out and his soul shuddered. He formed a hand to touch the coffin and found that the seal on the coffin had been broken. At this moment, the coffin's lid had been moved half an inch, but the corpse and the green lotus natal divine sword were still inside. It should not have been opened by an expert, otherwise the divine sword would have been gone. Yi Qinghan's soul shuddered and felt a bad premonition from the bottom of his heart. His soul covered the entire underground palace, as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him. Is the tomb alive, or is it really haunted? Yi Qinghan's psyche shifted and the war chariot took half a step back. Finally, his psyche stared at the place where countless lives were buried. When the seal was broken, it was sealed by Zhang Yingshi. But the resentment inside had almost condensed into a vengeful spirit. Even an upper plane cultivator could not withstand the resentment inside. Did the thing inside come alive? Yi Qinghan was extremely shocked. Although he could not see, he could feel that there was a pair of eyes staring at him. The owner of the eyes was extremely terrifying, definitely more terrifying than a saint. Did the saint's soul condense into a vengeful spirit and come alive? Yi Qinghan was not sure, but he was sure that if this thing came alive, he would not be able to stop it. The entire heaven-suppressing prefecture city would be razed to the ground. He wanted to go in and check it out, but he dared not take the risk as he did not want to gamble with the lives of everyone in the city. Yi Qinghan quickly exited the tomb and condensed a few golden words in the sky. Like Buddha rays, they were sent into the psyche ocean of the saints. Everyone is to leave the heaven-suppressing prefecture city for a month. The further you go, the better. People of the Sword Dao sect, please inform the Sword Dao Grand Eternal Saint and Saint Chess Supreme to come here. The two messages were quickly spread out. In fact, the two saints of the Sword Dao sect already knew when Yi Qinghan stepped into the sacred land of Sword Dao. However, they did not want to disturb him. Unexpectedly, Yi Qinghan took the initiative to look for them. 1.5 days later, they appeared in the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. Yi Qinghan guarded the city for 1.5 days. The people in the city had all migrated out. Some fled towards the blessed Buddha temple, some moved towards the war race's territory, and some ran towards the Sword Dao sect. 1.5 days was not a long time. Saint Chess Supreme and Sword Dao Saint came to Yi Qinghan's place and asked curiously, "I wonder why Clan Master Yi ordered the people to migrate out of the city? There is danger in the city. Once it erupts, let alone the heaven-suppressing prefecture city, everything within 100,000 miles radius will be razed to the ground." Yi Qinghan quickly condensed the word immortal and replied. The two saints were shocked. They spread out their divine senses but found no threat at all. Chapter 2171. Chess venerates Saint and Sword Saint looked at Yi Qinghan in confusion. They didn't know where Yi Qinghan's danger came from. With Sect Master Ye's cultivation, who can pose a threat to you unless a great saint comes? Sword Saint asked in surprise. Chess Venerate Saint looked around and stared at the southern part of the city. He said doubtfully, "Yi, are you talking about the southern part of the city?" There's a huge tomb in the southern part of the city. In the tomb is the body of a saint, the son of the sacred Lord. There are countless living beings buried in the tomb as funerary objects. The souls of trillions of living beings condensed into the most sinful soul. Once it takes over a physical body, it will be comparable to a great saint. It is extremely evil and views all living beings as ants. The more souls it devours, the stronger it will become. Yi Qinghan quickly condensed the immortal character and sent it into the two's consciousness as he continued to explain. This is the sacred Lord's love for his son. He hopes to use countless souls to revive his son. In order to do so, he views all living beings as ants. He has lost his mind. Chess Venerate Saint and Sword Saint were shocked. They didn't expect such a bomb to be hidden in the eternal sacred ground of Sword Dao. It could flatten the sacred ground of Sword Dao at any time. Why is this tomb here? The Sword Dao Saint asked in shock. Times have changed. Mountains and rivers have migrated. Stars have moved. Earth's crust has shifted. Yi Qinghan's immortal character was filled with murderous intent. Heaven and earth rumbled. He condensed the immortal character and said, "What I'm most afraid of is not this soul taking over the body of the sacred Lord's Son. I'm worried that Bailey Longxian's body is hidden in that mechanism. Once the soul takes over Bailey Longxian's golden body, this world will be finished. Even if all the great saints come, they won't be able to stop him from killing." Ka. Chess Venerate Saint and Sword Saint's pupils shrank. They were extremely shocked. Fear crept up their spines. Before Yi Qinghan appeared, saints were fearless. After all, no one could kill a saint. Even if Green Lotus Sword Immortal could kill a saint, he was already suppressed. Even if he came back, he would still be a piece of trash without half of his origin energy. But now they were afraid. Saints weren't immortal. What should we do? Z, do you have the confidence to kill this sinful soul that was condensed from vengeful spirits? Chess Venerate Saint asked in shock. Yi Qinghan was silent. Even if the evil soul had taken over the physical body of the sacred leader's son, there was nothing Yi Qinghan could do, let alone the fact that the evil soul had taken over Bailey Longxian's golden body. "Help me guard the exit of the great tomb. I want to see if I can kill it in its cradle." Yi Qinghan was silent for a long time before he once again condensed the immortal character and suggested, "All right." The two sages replied without hesitation. The two sages and Yi Qinghan quickly appeared in the southern direction of the city. Holy power enveloped them, the stars turned into a chessboard, and the border river was the limit, sealing the area. Unless the other party could shatter the chessboard, no one could escape the great tomb. Yi Qinghan steered the war chariot into the great tomb once again, heading straight for the side door that was sealed all those years ago. Now, he could sense the baleful aura on the other side even more clearly. The evil soul inside had clearly taken form, and its murderous aura was soaring to the sky. It was filled with evil thoughts, and if one soul was slightly weaker, they would be controlled by its resentment. Even sages could be controlled. Yi Qinghan was silent outside the door for a moment. He mobilized his spiritual power and condensed it into a human form. Holy power enveloped it, and he shattered the seal with a palm strike, opening the side door wide open. Screech. Endless negative emotions rushed out, as if countless evil ghosts and demons were rushing out from inside. Hell was definitely not hell. This was the end of hell, the slaughterhouse of Azura. The terrifying shriek shattered everything in its path as it rushed into Yi Qinghan's consciousness. If not for the fact that Yi Qinghan's soul had already been sealed as a saint and was extremely powerful, his soul would probably have already been destroyed. Even if it did not threaten Yi Qinghan, he was still furious at this moment. This was just the negative emotions of the evil soul. Just a little of it was enough to make him so shocked. If it all exploded, the sages would definitely not be able to resist the invasion of the evil soul. Once the evil soul took over this sage's corpse, even 3 great sages together might not be able to suppress it. Yi Qinghan steered the war chariot through the side door. Darkness, the wisps, screams, and baleful aura filled this hell of Azura. The emotions of slaughter began to spread, affecting his soul. The air blew his silver-white hair, and the murderous aura rumbled in all directions. Woo-woo, the eerie cold wind whistled, and the frost war chariot dimmed. Yi Qinghan steered the war chariot along the passage. When he turned a corner, his powerful soul almost collapsed. There was a small region inside, but the region was filled with corpses and bones. The eerie white bones were all human skeletons. They were piled up like mountains and spread out for countless miles. No one knew how many people the Divine Lord had buried here. It was obvious that the people here were not from a small region, but half of the Daluo astral realm. Endless vengeful spirits had created the evil soul. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan even had an illusion that countless ants were crawling on his body, and a cold knife was scraping his skin. Crack, crack, crack. The bones shattered upon contact, and the resentment grew stronger. The murderous aura had already wrapped around Yi Qinghan's soul. Countless vengeful spirits tore at it, as if they were entering a reincarnation passage. Countless vengeful spirits screamed, struggled, and took revenge. The negative emotions in hell could not be more abundant than here. What a ruthless divine lord! Yi Qinghan's soul tensed up, and his divine sense spread out, searching for the evil soul's location. In the dusky region, one's vision was very limited. At this time, his divine sense could not be used because the baleful aura was too strong. Even a saint could not cover 100,000 miles, but Yi Qinghan could cover 1,000,000 miles, and still could not find the evil soul's location. Whoosh-da-whoosh! The war chariot continued to crush the white bones, and the baleful aura grew stronger. The resentment soared to the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan's battle robe fluttered. The human figure condensed from his spiritual energy formed a seal with his palms. The fifth style of the skybreaking star-plucking hand could be activated at any time. It was enough to crush any saint, but he did not have the confidence to crush that evil soul. He was even worried that he would be severely injured. Several days later, Yi Qinghan had almost reached the center of this small region. However, his soul trembled, and his divine sense found a flickering. Upon closer inspection, it was indeed a corpse. What was more frightening was that the corpse had not decomposed. It was still shining with golden light, supported by the laws, and filled with profound mysteries. The dragon's might roared, as if it was still alive. Gulp! Yi Qinghan's soul trembled violently, because he discovered that the corpse had suddenly opened its eyes and smiled at him. The smile was so cold and cruel. Not to mention the emotions of a human, it did not even have the emotionlessness of a ghost. Instead, those eyes were filled with killing intent and resentment. Bailey Longxian's golden body is indeed here. Whoosh-da-boom! Yi Qinghan did not hesitate. He dispersed his human figure and drove the war chariot to escape at top speed. A violent wind blew, and the bones shattered, turning into endless smoke and dust that covered everything. Ha! There are actually humans here. A mournful cry that made one's hair stand on end sounded. This was the most terrifying sound Yi Qinghan had ever heard. It was the joy of eating a saint, and it was the joy of killing. Chapter 2172. Whoosh-da! Yi Qinghan turned into lightning as his soul drove the war chariot towards the exit of the small domain. The war chariot was actually shattered by the terrifying sound. The war chariot was formed by saint power and spiritual power. Its speed was even faster than that of a saint. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in the tunnel. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate as he quickly escaped from the tomb. As he left, he took the green lotus sword deity's natal holy sword with him. That once the immortal sword appeared, a shockwave spread in all directions. The sword Tao of heaven and earth roared. The sword Tao saints outside trembled as they almost pulled their swords out of their sheaths. Boom! Yi Qinghan controlled the immortal sword to pierce through the door of the tomb. He escaped from the tomb and appeared in the chessboard array. Leave quickly. Just as I expected, the worst has happened. The Bailey Great Sage's golden body is really inside. The sinful soul has already taken over the golden body. Its food is the saint's soul. From now on, the saints will fall. The world will collapse and all will cease to exist. Yi Qinghan formed the word immortal and sent it into the two saints' consciousness. He did not even have the interest to fight. The other party was a sinful soul that had gathered the resentment of billions of living beings in the world to take over the golden body of the great sage. No one would be able to do anything to it. The Saint Lord would reap what he sowed. Yi Qinghan was certain that if this sinful soul had been used to strengthen the Sacred Lord's body, then the Sacred Lord's preparations would have been useful. Unfortunately, he had been too confident and had even hidden Bailey Longxian's body here. Yes, this way, no one would be able to find the corpse. However, he had overlooked the strength of this sinful soul. It could even occupy the golden body of a great sage. The Sword Tao Saint and Chess Supremacy were shocked as they quickly withdrew their defenses. They were at a loss and did not know what to do. What should we do? What about the billions of living beings in the sacred ground? Chess Supremacy looked at Yi Qinghan and asked in a low voice. Yi Qinghan formed the word immortal indifferently. His aura was cold as if he was mocking Chess Supremacy. You can't even protect yourself, yet you are still thinking about the living beings in the world. I said that all the saints will fall. No one can stop Bai Li Longxian's golden body. The sinful soul's evil aura is enough to affect saints. Once you meet it, you will lose yourself. At this moment, the Sword Wei Saint and Chess Supremacy were truly afraid. They had just met and they had already lost themselves. How terrifying such an existence was of a saint. Ingen. The saints were unable to understand that level. Losing oneself was even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan, who was a walking corpse. At least Yi Qinghan had a soul and could still make decisions. However, losing oneself meant that one was truly a walking corpse. When will that sinful soul awaken? Chess Venerate Saint asked in surprise. Qinghan's supremacy was supremacy of a. The of heaven is of you. Could it be that even an immortal cannot suppress this evil soul? Yi Qinghan wanted to laugh. But in the end, he formed the word immortal and replied, Immortal my ass. If there is really an immortal, do you think I would let you live until now? Hua. Yi Qinghan formed the word immortal and congealed his saint power into a war chariot. He fled out of the heaven-suppressing city, leaving Chess Supremacy and Sword Dao Saint looking at each other. Xiu Hua. Boom boom boom. The void was torn apart by Yi Qinghan's soul. In order to escape, he gave it his all. This time, it was not because he was weak. He was too afraid. He was afraid that he would die just like that. His soul would be devoured by the sinful soul and everything would become a part of it. But this time, Yi Qinghan did not give up on Fire Beacon City. He did not give up on the siblings, Qin Xianxian and Qin Xianluo. He channeled his soul to its peak and formed a dimension. He trapped everyone in the city into the dimension and brought them across time and space, escaping towards the north. Chess Supremacy and Sword Dao Saint rushed into the void and rushed towards the heart of the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground. They waved their hands and brought the people away. But even a saint's power was limited. Even if they waved their hands, they could not take in trillions of lives. Their worlds were full. The starry chessboard expanded infinitely and took in another batch of people. But behind them, there was a chilling murderous aura that pierced through the clouds and shattered the stars. The negative emotions of cold-bloodedness spread. The mountains and rivers trembled. Clouds and clouds rose. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Boom da hua. In an instant, a heavy rain poured down. It was as if the sky was torn apart. The heaven-suppressing city was drowned in a torrential flood. Bang! A shrill roar was heard. The shockwave shattered the heaven-suppressing city that stood proudly in the world. The shockwave spread for thousands of miles and reached Fire Beacon City. Boom! Bai Li Longxian's golden body was controlled by the sinful soul. He punched through the mountains and rivers. The shockwave spread for more than 100 million miles. It pierced through the Sword Dao Sacred Ground and into the Shixiang Sacred Ground. The living beings that could not escape in time fell into endless fear. Other than waiting for death, they could do nothing. The evil soul greedily looked at the world, its eyes filled with red light. Back then, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal had been a terrifying existence, and now that he had appeared, he could indeed destroy the heavens and earth. This aura caused Yi Qinghan to lose all will to fight and immediately run away. Bai Li Longxian's body was right in front of him. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan did not have the courage to take it. Yi Qinghan controlled the time and space, reversing the flow of all things. He left the Sword Dao Eternal Sacred Ground in the blink of an eye. He traveled through the mountains and rivers, crossed the sacred ground and entered the war race's territory. A line of immortal was written across the war race's territory, reminding the living beings to escape. But he knew, where could they run to? Where could they run to? There was nowhere to run. This sinful soul would devour everything. The moment the sinful soul was born, the sacred lord, Xia Zhaoyang, who was far away in the sacred lord mountain, was awakened. He was happy at first, but when he felt the danger, he realized that he was wrong. Very wrong, very wrong. It has taken over Bai Li Longxian's golden body? Damn it, how could I be wrong? The sacred lord was shocked. He realized that he had gone too far. He had cultivated an irresistible demon. Heavenly Sovereign. Supreme Emperor, Ghost God, shouldn't the four of us put aside our differences and work together against the enemy? The Sacred Lord channeled his holy power and shouted angrily. Boom! His voice was like a thunderclap. It rumbled and spread throughout the eternal world. The Heavenly Sovereign Grand Sage came out of seclusion. His expression changed. He had thought of everything, but he did not expect the Sacred Lord to put Bai Li Longxian's golden body into such a battlefield. You muddle-headed old man. You have harmed the world and yourself. The Heavenly Sovereign Grand Sage cursed. The Sacred Lord was speechless. He did not know how to refute. The Ghost God Grandmaster, who was far away in the south, flew into the sky. He thought that there was no one more ferocious than him in the world because he had crawled out from the depths of hell. However, when he saw Bai Li Longxian's golden body emitting a monstrous aura of resentment, his soul almost collapsed. The Supreme Emperor rushed out of the Nine States Manor and bumped into Yi Qinghan. He looked at the holy land of the Way of the Sword in the south, and his expression changed. What's going on? The Supreme Emperor asked in shock. From now on, the holy body will be destroyed and the heavens and earth will collapse. The Sacred Lord has created the sinful soul, and the sinful soul has taken over Bai Li Longxian's body. Who in the world can resist it? Yi Qinghan condensed the word, immortal, and reminded, quickly gather the spirits of the Nine States Manor and move them into the 10-direction space. The 18 sages will take them and escape together. Chapter 2173. Absolute Saint Monarch stared at the direction of the heaven-suppressing city in terror. There stood a peerless ferocious being. His baleful aura and ferocious aura had already reached this place. How many living beings did Xia Zhaoyang use as bait? Absolute Saint Monarch roared in despair. Yi Qinghan condensed into a human figure and with a wave of his hand, he showed everything he saw in the small realm to Absolute Saint Monarch. There were corpses everywhere, piled up like mountains and scattered across the entire realm. And this realm was obviously much bigger than the 9 continents. How many living beings could be buried here? At least half of the living beings in a huge realm were buried here, and there were still living beings in this small realm. God knows how many of them were buried here. Countless living beings died in fear and resentment. How much resentment and negative emotions were produced? This was scarier than any other realm in hell. This sinful soul was no longer part of the 5 elements. The sinful soul's eyes were like torches as he looked down at the living beings. He could clearly see the 4 great sages standing far away. Their faces were filled with greed and desire to devour. Their eyes were filled with greed for food. The sinful soul did not go straight for the 4 great sages. Instead, he set his sights on hell, where there were boundless negative emotions, fear, and despair. Honged up with a single palm strike, the order of hell was shattered. The sinful soul came to hell alone and started devouring everything. Darkness engulfed hell completely, causing the place to be filled with fear and despair. Wherever he went, all souls were devoured. Woo, the aura of despair was like the horn of war. When the ghosts and gods with souls and memories came into contact with the dark aura, their souls fell into darkness and died without any chance of reincarnation. Hell was destroyed. The so-called order of hell was nothing in front of the sinful soul. He did not care about the order of the world. No reincarnation, no order, none of it had anything to do with him. The first realm, the second realm, one realm after another was flattened and devoured. The sinful soul was a war machine. The Lord of Hell fell into fear. His own realm, the hell that he had controlled for countless years, fell just like that. He could not even fight back. At this moment, the 4 great sages were gathered. The other 3 great sages were filled with anger and dissatisfaction towards the Saint Monarch. This was a matter of life and death for the entire world. No matter how strong the Saint Monarch was, he could not risk the world's survival. The Saint Monarch was cold. Even if the world was destroyed, he would not feel pain. But now, the sinful soul had threatened his life. Doesn't Yi Qinghan have immortal support? Immortal does not care if the world is destroyed. Doesn't he cherish the common people and have feelings for all living things? Sacred leader looked coldly at Tongtian and Holy Emperor and asked in a low voice. Immortal? Do you? Yi monarch knew that Yi had immortals. Monarch monarch monarch, monarch monarch. Monarch 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 monarch, monarch monarch arch monarch monarch. Monarch monarch? Monarch monarch monarch? Monarch monarch monarch? Monarch monarch. Monarch monarch long as? Monarch monarch? Monarch 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 arch crack crack. The appearance of the evil soul didn't make him angry, but being deceived by a brat, how infuriating. The sacred leader's black hair fluttered in the wind. Boundless righteous energy surged out of him, and his murderous intent filled the air. Only this bastard would dare to lie to me. The Holy Lord roared coldly. The absolute saint looked at the Holy Master unhappily and said coldly, "Look at the situation now and you're still thinking about punishing others. This is all your fault. Shouldn't you be responsible for it?" The sacred master mocked himself. The evil soul has taken over Bailey Longxian's saint body. How can I take responsibility? Do you know how many lives have been buried? 90% of the living beings in the great net astral realm are there. You are not only cruel, you are inhumane. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage roared. Whoosh! Boom. At this moment, a figure broke the order and rushed out of hell. It was the Lord of Hell. However, the moment he escaped, a black light covered the sky and entangled the Lord of Hell's legs. Ah! The Lord of Hell let out a shrill cry. The order of reincarnation surrounded his golden body and tried to pull the evil soul into the cycle of reincarnation. However, he was no longer in the 5 elements. Reincarnation was useless against him. Boom! Kikik! The souls of the saints, their fear and despair, are great nourishment. A business that didn't belong to humans exploded in the sky, causing all living beings to feel despair and fear. Other than the peripheral regions, the entire world was filled with fear and negative emotions. However, the more it was so, the happier the evil soul was. Bailey Longxian's originally sage-like face was now filled with malevolence and killing intent. His white hair made him look even more demonic. In the 9 states' crazed manner, the Green Lotus Sword Immortal took the natal immortal sword from Yi Qinghan and slowly stepped out of the manor. He looked at the distant sky and muttered, "It has indeed appeared. However, I didn't expect Xia Zhayang to be so cold and heartless." He actually buried Bailey Longxian's body in his son's grave. Yi Qinghan chased after him on his war chariot. He condensed the word, immortal, and asked, "If you take back the other half of the origin, will you have a chance to kill it?" The Green Lotus Sword Immortal shook his head and replied honestly, "If I was at my peak, I might be able to fight against it for some time. However, I can't now. I'm no match for it. Even if I join forces with other great saints, we can't do anything to it. After all great saints have their own agendas. Everyone wants to hold back." Hearing this, Yi Qinghan made up his mind to escape. There was no need to die with the entire world. Boom! Just as the two were talking, a terrifying aura rushed into the galaxy. Then the mountains and rivers shook, heaven and earth collapsed, and the great Tao broke. The entire world fell into darkness. The Lord of Hell is dead. The Green Lotus Sword Immortal said with certainty. The death of a saint would cause a change in heaven and earth. It was the same when Xia Zhaoyang's son died. Yi Qinghan condensed the word, immortal, and suggested, "Let's go trick Xia Zhaoyang and trick him into giving us the other half of the origin. At least you'll recover some of your strength." The Green Lotus Sword Immortal was silent for a while. He nodded, agreeing with Yi Qinghan's suggestion. However, he said, "There's no need to rush. When the evil soul defeats them, they will naturally think of me. If we go now, he'll only be hoping for a fluke." At this moment, the evil soul rushed towards the Holy Empire and Blessed Buddha Temple. The 4 great saints had already moved. The more the evil soul killed, the more energy it devoured, and the stronger it became. In the end, it would be difficult to stop it. Buzz. Amitabha Buddha. Buzz buzz. In an instant, the Blessed Buddha Temple's territory was filled with Buddhist light. The rumbling of Buddhist sound pierced through the mountains and rivers. A Buddha and a devil were entangled. the devil and Buddha's aura was actually not inferior to that of a great saint. Chapter 2174. Boundless faith poured out from blessed Buddha temple cities, resisting the darkness. Negative emotions and faith clashing with each other. Surprisingly, they were not inferior. What a strong presence. There's actually a fifth great saint hidden in this world. Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked at blessed Buddha temple's direction in astonishment, watching the Buddha and demon coexisting, entangling and fusing together, but not devouring each other. Yi Qinghan couldn't see, and his divine sense couldn't reach that far, so he asked, "What's going on?" An aura comparable to a great saint appeared in blessed Buddha temple's direction. Buddha light soared to the sky, demonic energy surged, intertwining and buffing each other, increasing their combat strength by many times. Green Lotus Sword Immortal frowned. Yi Qinghan was stunned, his soul felt enlightened. He finally understood why the Sky Demon Bao was in the hands of those black-robed men. Blessed Buddha Temple and Heavenly Demon Cult were originally one body. The Lord of Blessed Buddha and Heavenly Demon were the same person, just two clones. The two bodies studied different directions, yet they both became saints. This Lord of Blessed Buddha was truly terrifying. The group that wanted to kill me and Oshi Holy Ground was from Blessed Buddha Temple. Everything made sense now. Blessed Buddha Temple had hidden their strength, and once they unleashed it, they managed to stop the evil soul. Hua! Wu! Darkness shrouded Blessed Buddha Temple's territory, compressing it and devouring faith and Buddha light. The Lord of Blessed Buddha's palms were clasped together, sitting cross-legged in the void. Half of his body was Buddha, the other half was demon. He chanted, his body exuded the power of Buddha and demon. Tens of thousands of Buddhas chanted, and trillions of living beings in his territory were praying. Their faith was so terrifying that it could stand up to the evil soul. At this time, the four great saints finally saw hope. Not daring to delay any longer, they rushed to Blessed Buddha Temple's territory, hoping to join hands with the Lord of Blessed Buddha to suppress this evil soul. Ha! A sinister laugh echoed a million li away, causing goosebumps to rise on the people who heard it. Crack, crack, crack. The walls formed by faith crumbled, slivers of darkness seeped into Blessed Buddha Temple's territory. The Blessed Buddha Temple could only compress the territory again, trying to hold out until the four great saints arrived. Boom! The sinful soul took control of the great sage's body and smashed through the barrier of faith with a single palm strike. No matter how strong the wills of the countless bodies of flesh and blood were, they could not withstand absolute power. The flesh and blood of countless believers were torn apart and turned into a bloody mist. Bang! The great saint's body entered the Blessed Buddha Temple's territory. A destructive aura spread out in all directions, instantly affecting dozens of cities. The Blessed Buddha Temple's territory had fallen, but the headquarters of the Blessed Buddha Lord was still there. Thousands of ascetic monks stepped out of the temple and formed a huge pyramid with the Blessed Buddha as the tip. They gathered together, and the Buddha's aura grew brighter. The great saint's aura was vast and mighty. His palm pierced through the mountains and rivers of time and space, directly hitting the pyramid formed by the Lord of Blessed Buddha and the thousands of sadhus. The other four great saints were too late. Even if the Lord of Blessed Buddha revealed his true body, he still couldn't withstand the combined might of the sinful soul and Bailey Longxian's saint body. Boom! Boom! Bang! The Lord of Heavenly Buddha condensed the Buddha seal. Fury of 10,000 Buddhas. Boom! Blessed Buddha Lord's hair stood on end, but he had no choice but to grit his teeth and endure. He had no chance to escape, and if he hesitated for even a moment, he would lose his chance to escape. Whoosh! Boom! Bang! The great sage's direct attack destroyed the pyramid of ascetic monks. Blessed Buddha Temple had spent countless years nurturing so many ascetic monks, but in an instant, all of them had perished under this one palm. And after a series of mournful screams, the group of ascetic monks turned into walking corpses. Their souls were wrapped in a dark aura, and they fell into endless fear and despair. The Lord of Blessed Buddha Temple roared. Buddhist light filled the sky, and a murderous aura soared to the heavens. Demonic energy surged and intertwined with Buddhist energy. The great saint's aura completely erupted, and he clashed with the sinful soul. Standing at the distant border of the war race, Yi Qinghan and Green Lotus Sword Fairy could feel a wave of air rushing to their faces. The battle between great saints was too terrifying. More than 1,000,000 miles of mountains and rivers were razed to the ground. Blessed Buddha Temple had completely turned into an Azura battlefield. Not even corpses were left behind. The place where the battle had taken place was scorched and dark. Even if the Lord of Blessed Buddha Temple has become a great saint, he won't be able to hold on for long. If he's surrounded by other great saints, he might be able to repel the sinful soul. But if it's a one-on-one battle, the difference is too great. Let's get ready to leave. Green Lotus Sword Fairy said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan had long wanted to leave. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to take back that half of the origin, why would he still stay here? At this time, the people of 9 states Madness Manor had already gathered together. They were led by the 18 great saints, while Universal Love Saint and Feng Bufan were still looking for the immortal peach tree in the outside world. Universal Love Saint and Feng Bufan had already felt the impending storm in the outside world. They were rushing back to 9 states Madness Manor, turning into meteors and lightning as they rushed back from the endless depths. Darkness had already enveloped the earth. From now on, great saints would be annihilated, and heaven and earth would collapse. This was the irresistible trend, and no one could stop it. Yi Qinghan and the Green Lotus Sword Celestial led the 18 saints of the Insane Sect, the Yar Saint, and the 3 saints of the Oshi Holy Land to move towards the ocean. This was because the Love Saint and Feng Bufan were rushing towards the outside world from that direction. The 4 great saints brushed past Yi Qinghan and the rest. Xia Zhiyang, the great saint, was burning with rage. If it wasn't for the fact that time was pressing, he would definitely kill Yi Qinghan first. However, he noticed Green Lotus Sword Fairy, and the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage and Absolute Saint obviously wouldn't let him kill Yi Qinghan. The great saint glanced coldly at Yi Qinghan and continued to rush towards Blessed Buddha Temple's territory with the other 3 great saints. At this moment, the Lord of Blessed Buddha Temple was on the verge of defeat and could be annihilated at any time. Whoosh 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 dot boom. The 4 great saints had already taken out their great saint weapons. The mountains and rivers trembled, and their auras surged to the sky, wanting to tear apart the darkness and resist the destructive aura. Boom. Whoosh. The 4 great saints attacked the sinful souls from a distance. Blessed Buddha Temple, Sword Dao, and Eternal Sacred Ground all collapsed. Wherever the battle affected, no living thing could survive. The Holy War hadn't even begun, but the War of Extinction had already begun. The strong sects and wealthy families could only struggle bitterly. Without the saints, everything was in vain. Several days later, Yi Qinghan and the rest met up with Feng Bufan and Universal Love Saint. The 2 saints didn't know what was going on. Looking at the dark clouds and baleful aura in the sky, their expressions changed. What's going on? Feng Bufan asked angrily. The world is about to be destroyed. Xia Zhaoyang raised a peerless monster, and even he himself can't control it. Green Lotus Sword Fairy stood not far behind Yi Qinghan, glanced at Feng Bufan, and calmly replied. Feng Bufan only noticed Green Lotus Sword Fairy now. He took a few steps back, the corner of his mouth twitching as he murmured, "Green Lotus Sword Fairy." Green Lotus Sword Fairy looked coldly at Feng Bufan and sneered. The Green Lotus Immortal Sword in his hand was already glowing with immortal light. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.